Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's department budget hearing. Today is Monday, April 29th, 2024. We have three presentations tonight. We have the Department of Human Resources and Labor Relations, the Internal Audit Department, and the Department of Families, Children, and Youth. I am Councilman Amilcar Hernandez. I am chair of the Operations Management, Budget, and Government Accountability Committee. This meeting is broadcasting live on HPA-TV's Xfinity Government Channel 96 and Frontier Government Channel 6032. It will also be streamed via HPA-TV.org, the HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV Apple TV, Amazon TV, and Roku TV apps. It will also be made available on the HPA-TV YouTube channel. I would like to acknowledge my peers here tonight. Starting from my right, we have Councilwoman Kelly Bilodeau, Assistant Majority Leader TJ Clark, Council President Shirley Surgeon. To my left, Councilman John Gale, Councilman George Micton, and Councilman Alex Thomas. And on the screen we have Councilwoman Mali Rosado. Tonight's presentation, our first presentation will be the Department of Human Resources and Labor Relations, and we have with us tonight Director Marlene Fleeting. Please, Marlene, introduce the team that came with you tonight, and then you can start your presentation right after. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say, first of all, thank you to you all, the council, for allowing us to be here tonight, as well as thank you to Mayor Arunin and COO Ajayi for the opportunity to present. To my right, I have Assistant Director Pamela Hortez. To my left, I have Deb Carabello, who's our Deputy Director, and I have Richard Pekorski, who's our Benefits Director. And a special thank you to the most, I think the greatest team that a director can even ask for, the team that sits behind me, which is my HR team, most of them that are here behind me. So thank you to you all. So I will begin our presentation for FY25 recommended budget. I'll begin with our mission statement. The Department of Human Resources is committed to providing effective guidance and support to all city departments with respect to hiring, managing, developing, and retaining employees, labor relation matters, and benefits administration. By establishing human resources, policies, and procedures, the department provides fair, consistent, and clear standards to be applied by the City of Hartford as an employer. The department provides direct services in the following areas: compensation, classification, benefits, employee relations, labor relations, training and development, recruitment, and HR technology. In addition, the department serves as a resource to department heads in the city administration on matters involving collective bargaining agreements and the state and federal employment law. Next, we have our organizational chart. As you can see, we have administration, we have employment services, labor relations, and benefits. Currently, we have 2 vacancies. I was able to fill our HR analyst vacancy that we have with Darian Stevens, who's also here, as of 4/8/24. So we have 2 current vacancies remaining. Just to touch on some highlights from fiscal 24 in employment services. To date, HR has administered a total of 27 examinations, including 12 entry-level police officers that included written, physical agility, and oral examinations. 5 emergency service dispatchers trainee tests, and we've actually completed for the year, well, for the fiscal year, we've been able to do more tests than we've ever done in prior years, and that helps us eliminate the need for 12-hour shifts, so they're no longer having to work a lot of overtime that they were having to do in the past, so that's a huge accomplishment. Also, 10 Maintainer 3 and Maintainer 4 testing sessions to support the critical needs of the Public Works Department. We've also attended 6 job fairs to promote hiring opportunities within the city, and we're going to be hosting our own this fall, so more to come on that. Between April 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024, HR recruitments resulted in the hiring of 223 new employees and the promotion of 84 city employees. We calculated over 190 retroactive salary payments to employees for negotiated general wage increases, implemented civil service municipal code changes and HR procedures. We updated and created electronic fillable HR forms. Some more highlights from employment services, training and technology. HR continues to partner with the Office of Equity and Opportunity to ensure employees attend mandatory sexual harassment training. HR worked with several city departments for specialized training such as personal actions, leadership, support and resources, contract administration, employee evaluations, and progressive discipline. Implementation of digital signage in City Hall that disseminates messages to employees and the public, such as job opportunities and wellness programs. And below, you'll see the examples. These are some of the examples that's on our digital board. If you look downstairs in the ground floor as you're coming in. Some more highlights from benefits and labor. Benefits administration, 5% four-year overall average healthcare trend versus a 7% year-over-year expected. Four-year medical only trend average 1.8% for period 7/1/2018 to 6/30/2023. We implemented CVS Smart Logic RX protocols for off-brand prescription drug utilization. 0% increase in, what's that, Rich? Administrative services only, medical administration fees from 24 to 25, RFP individual stop loss, and ISL reinsurance July, as of July 1, 2024. RFP TPA retire administration benefits services July 1, 2024. And for health and wellness, we continue to implement employee wellness initiatives, including the following: diabetes programs, mindfulness and stress reduction workshops, and various other wellness events, on-site flu clinics and health screenings, BP, A1C, cholesterol, BMI, etc., and virtual and on-site fitness classes, including free on-site health and wellness counseling services. And I would just like to say, the benefits team works really, really hard on wellness and health, and it is super, super important now after we had to deal with COVID, and a lot of people are currently dealing with a lot of health issues, and our team works tirelessly to get an awareness brought to our employees and also bring it here on site and also have it available virtually as well. So that's amazing. And it's only 3 people, but you would think it's like 50 working in benefits. So kudos to benefits. Employee and labor relations continue to collaboratively work with leadership in city departments to identify critical vacancies and negotiate changes to job descriptions, pay and qualifications to reflect current market data to assist with recruiting and retention. From May 2023 through February 24, we updated job descriptions and/or pay for an additional 28 classifications. We closed 21 grievances to date in FY24, 84% of which were resolved or successfully denied at the HR level of the grievance process. Successfully negotiated successor collective bargaining agreements with the 3 city unions, a contract extension with HPA, and wage increases for fire union members hired after January 2017, as well as restructuring of staffing in the training division of the fire department. Labor is also an area where we're down staff, and Deb to my left works tirelessly as well with our team to do labor, and it's a lot of work. We have 7 labor unions for the city of Hartford, and it's always something happening. So continuing highlights, we have marketing initiatives. We have a 12-week bus ad campaigns. Many of you may have seen on the back of city buses. We are, our logo was there and saying we're hiring. And we have over 2 million, 2 million impressions that were 2,889,755 to be exact impressions. And we also sent almost 10,000 mailers to Hartford residents highlighting job opportunities. And The city also was present at 6 job fairs to date. And if you look here, it just shows you some job fairs that we were at, as well as the cards that went out to Hartford residents. Our strategic initiatives: negotiate collective bargaining agreements that are fair and equitable, continue to partner with departments to prioritize the hiring of Hartford residents, particularly within public safety positions, continue to update policies, departmental procedures, and job descriptions, provide mandated and optional training opportunities to city employees, continue to automate HR systems to reduce administrative burden and increase organizational effectiveness. Our budget comparison, we went up 8.4%, and that's due to general wage increases for union members, growth increment salary increases for union members and non-union employees, and increases in employment testing costs. Some budget highlights and areas of focus. In FY25, approximately 50% of the FY25 budget is allocated for recruitment and employment testing costs, and this is including salaries as well. FY25 budget includes funds for entry-level firefighter testing, contractually required fire and police promotional testing, and continued marketing strategies. Areas of focus: we'll continue to focus on ways to attract Hartford residents for jobs to the fullest extent possible, with a focus on diversity, inclusion, and representation at all levels. Conduct our own city job fair highlighting our departments and job opportunities. Continue to partner with city leadership, city departments, and the unions to identify critical vacancies and to update or change job descriptions, salary ranges, and qualifications to assist with recruitment, retention, and succession planning, and employee transitions. We'll continue to encourage and engage all of City of Hartford employees in ongoing training opportunities, including EEOC, ADA, diversity, inclusion, and workplace sensitivity, OSHA, supervisory, reasonable suspicion, drug testing, and sexual harassment training programs. Negotiate with Local 1716 in the fire union for fair and equitable successor collective bargaining agreements. We'll continue to review processes, policies, and procedures and implement additional efficiencies within HR and across the city. I'll speak to that later. And the staff composition of all employees, you can see that we have 38.5% City of Hartford residents and 61.5% that are not. Our race and ethnicity is as follows. The Hispanic, we have 30.8%, African American 30.8%, Caucasian or white, we have 23.1%, other is 15.3%. Gender, female, we have 76.9%, male 23.1%. And in the back, you'll have the appendices with all the other data and information. But right now, that concludes the presentation, so we'll open the floor up for questions.
Thank you, Director, for this presentation. We're going to open up the floor now for questions from my colleagues. I'm going to start looking at my right side and see if there's any questions. Councilwoman Kelly Bilodeau.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have one question. Do you currently have any programs, opportunities, or incentives for Hartford residents to have a pathway to employment with the City of Hartford?
We have preference points for some positions, so they would get an additional 10% if they complete from start to finish a position. So we do have preference points. I'm not sure, do we have any?
We also have the requirement for when a Hartford resident has proved their residency and they're on a certification list that's sent to the departments are required to reach out to every Hartford resident for an interview, and that gives them the step above non-Hartford residents, because the departments can choose from non-Hartford residents who they would like to interview and who they don't, but we do require them to interview the Hartford residents.
Just a follow-up to that, is that also, does that also include promotional opportunities, or is that only open competitive entry-level positions?
That opportunity is just for open competitive, but with the promotional, they are awarded additional residency points.
Thank you.
Assistant Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I made a comment up here that was quick, but it was good. Very efficient. A few questions regarding benefits. Where is the city regarding analyzing the benefits plan for city employees regarding its cost effectiveness, and have we looked at a way to decrease the benefits costs for the city outside within the general fund to piggyback off of the state?
Thank you, Councilman. So if there's an opportunity to piggyback off the state, we were probably the first cities ever to do it. Going back to when we carved out our pharmaceutical business in 2011 from Anthem to CVS Health. And we've been riding their coattails on the pharmaceutical side ever since. So they went out to bid this last year and for a new contract with CVS, and we continue to be the beneficiaries of lower drug costs because of the purchasing power of the state of Connecticut versus the purchasing power of 5,000 lives with the city of Hartford versus 200,000 at the state of Connecticut. However, you know, every year we also look at the possibility of saying, well, let's see what the partnership offers at the state level to see if we switched over our active population to their PPO plan. As you know, we have a high deductible health plan, and we've had it for quite a while now. However, the state still maintains the PPO. So every year we ask for a pricing of what it would cost the city actives to go over to the state of Connecticut, and it's usually much more expensive. So this year versus what it would cost the city on an HDHP, their cost is about 13.5% greater, or around $2.6 million more. So if we had a full replacement, taking our active population to the state, we would be paying about 13.5% more this year. And they even had a good trend last year, and it still wouldn't be cost effective. However, I say that because I say it with active population, but if you take the retiree population and put it together, it would almost be cost neutral. But the problem with that is all the retirees are contractually retired under various different programs and healthcare designs, and we are all pooled together by CBA, a collective bargaining agreement, whereas the actives subsidize the retirees, as retirees are higher cost utilizer, so there's an implicit rate subsidy involved where we active people, participants actually subsidize the retirees. So we really couldn't move to the state unless it was just the active side, and the active seems to be too expensive. And then in addition, police and fire, they are underwritten on their own, so their rates are less than everybody else's active rates here by a substantial amount because they're a younger cohort. They don't have as many claims as everybody else. So if you ask the police department and the fire union and the police union to go over to the state of Connecticut, their rate's going to automatically skyrocket from where they are today with the city of Hartford. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but in a nutshell, if all actives went, it'd be too expensive, and if we try to actually get the entire population over, we'd probably be hit with some lawsuits in regards to retirees complaining.
May I just add on to that, just so you know? Rich is absolutely 100% right about the retirees, and we did try to move them many years, like right before Rich came, and we did have lots of complaints. But we have been proactive about that issue, and while we have legacy plans in place for those unions that we can't change because of the contract that they retired under, in our new contracts we have negotiated language that says, even for retirees, that their plans change as they change for actives. So it will take a while, but moving forward, we will not have those legacy plans because the retirees who receive retiree health insurance through the city, their plans will be changes as actives do, but that will take a while. But I just wanted to let you know that we have gone down that path and trying to make changes to that.
Thank you for that, that context. So that 13.5% that you referenced, was that done by, how was that number come up?
That
How
is-
did the number come up?
Yeah, but our underwriter, our consultant and underwriter are actually the same consultant underwriters for the state of Connecticut. So they provided that, every year they give that to me to price it out. So Siegel is our underwriter and
Okay,
consultant.
yeah.
But I just want to say, just added to that when you were saying what we do with the state of Connecticut, we also took the over 65 population and we transitioned them over to the state of Connecticut. Councilman, a number of years ago, if we had this over 65 population, our pricing for that group, was approaching $500 to $600 a month. That was like 10, 15 years ago. But we did transition that cohort over to the state of Connecticut, and right now we have around 660 contracts or individuals on that plan at the state of Connecticut. They're paying right now, I think last year was $160 or they're $175 a month. So that's a phenomenal plan that they couldn't get in the marketplace at all. It doesn't exist. But our 660 get that plan through the state by going to the partnership for the over 65 and saving a heck of a lot of money and for a better plan. So, sorry.
Is it allowable for the municipality to take advantage of the Access Health CT health plans on the exchange?
I believe that's for small business owners, and we are an population that's over 50 and have our own plan, and I don't think that the government would allow us to transition to the Access Health CT.
So there is basically because we still have the high deductible health plan, correct?
We do.
And I know that I have personally received complaints from whether they're unionized employees or non-unionized employees regarding the healthcare cost that is basically expensive for a family because it's a big chunk that's taken out, plus they have to meet the deductible for the co-insurance to get in. So what means can we do to help drive down that the cost factor so that the healthcare plans could be more affordable for our employees? Because I recognize as we all know, our salaries aren't that competitive any longer. We have people leaving the city of Hartford to go to neighboring towns. And once upon a time, people flocked to the city of Hartford because of salaries and benefits. And so how can we now offset some of that flight?
And that's a good question. We try to do as much as we can, especially with lower salaried employees, 17, 16 employees. The negotiations that Deb and Marlene and staff took, when it was transitioned to a high deductible health plan, 17, 16, which is the lowest salaried employees, have a better plan design than everybody else. So they're actually paying less. When their deductible is $2,000, $4,000, but the city actually pays 100% after they reach the deductible, whereas everybody else pays 90 and 10. The employee pays 10 until there's a maximum out of pocket. So they already have an inherently better program than anybody else in the city. And the other issue, not issue, but the benefit that 1716 also has, they pay 15% of premium, whereas HMEA pays 21% of premium, or non-union pays 20, police fire 20. Everybody's pretty much at 20%. 1716 is at 15. So they have a better plan design. It's richer. They pay less for it. But like you said, it's difficult without making changes to the plan design to actually save money. You just want to change behaviors. You want to make sure you steer them to, urgent cares instead of ERs, to try to educate the individual to say, hey, listen, you don't need to go to the ER urgent care. Go to the doctor on Monday. Those types of things that staff in our office is always at DPW at the yard. We have coaching going on. We have different functions. We have biometric screenings. We talk to them. We're always at the yard now. We've really put 110% in that union to make sure that they're doing the right things to try to lower their overall costs. So, in a nutshell, that's really what we've been trying to do.
So it's basically the claims data, the claims, when the claims report comes up, whatever the higher the claims, which would warrant the city to pay at a higher premium rate?
Well, all our claims are pooled together for utilization to set a premium cost across the board, retirees and actives. So our particular renewal came in at around 5.4% increase this year. So we saw a little bit of a drop in the pandemic years where people were putting off their healthcare services. Now they're sort of picking up a little bit. Not as much as you would expect, because my overall trend on medical this year was 3.8. It's the drug side that's starting to take a bite. We went up 12% on my drug side, even with being at the state of Connecticut. And that is because specialty pharmaceuticals, and you see it every day on TV, the Ozempics, the Trulicities, the Victarvi, the Wegovy, those are going to start hitting the bottom line to the city. We've put in some safeguards on off-brand usage. That was in the presentation. However, if you think about it, if my budget's around $8.8 million on pharmacy, 54% of that budget of $8.8 million is on specialty pharmaceuticals. And how many scripts? 1.4% of my scripts that are filled are specialty pharma. So 1.4% of my total scripts, which is around 37,000 scripts a year or so, 1.4 accounts for 54% of my budget. So that's the stuff we're dealing with now, and we're trying to make sure we address this. We have specialty pharmaceuticals. You can only buy your specialty at specialty pharmaceutical through CVS, et cetera. So in general, we do want to have people take their medications, because if they take their medications, they don't go in the hospital, and the hospital costs more than the meds. So all in all, at a 5.4%, we're actually trending better than the average 7 to 8% book of business. So we're doing actually fairly well year over year. Last 8 years, we've been trending about the same net cost to the city with minor variations for the last 8 fiscal years. So that has a lot to do with the employees that work here, the retirees, and making sure they don't spend needlessly.
Okay, thank you. I think this is my final comment. COVID taught us a lot, taught us how to work smarter, and I think more efficiently. So here's a suggestion, and I can talk to my colleagues about this. I think the city should seriously take into consideration moving to a 4-day work week with the possibility of reducing the hours per week from 40 to either 35 or 37 and a half, which I remember it used to be. And also for work-life home balance, adopting a work-from-home schedule so that we can take in consideration people who are taking care of their families that cannot afford proper daycare and other means of care for the individuals. When we think about what our friends are doing in neighboring towns and other outside corporations, they have adopted that model to be more cost efficient, and also to taking in consideration, the mental health and well-being for these individuals. And I think the people in the city of Hartford that work for the city of Hartford have been working very tirelessly to serve the residents, and I think that this is something that HR should be taking into consideration, and I would be supportive of that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can I just follow up on that, Assistant Majority Leader Clark? I would actually love that. In HR, we've been talking about doing things like that, because I've talked to some people in this room about just that. We have to get to an understanding and to the mindset of getting new and innovative ideas to retain and attract talent. That's the only way you're going to do it. To your point, you can go right across the Bushnell Park over to the state. You can go across the bridge. You can go to East Hartford. You can go to Vernon, and you can get the 4-day work week. I was recently at a conference earlier in the month, and with colleagues, HR professionals from Connecticut, and they've implemented 4-day work weeks. And, and so that's things that we are definitely in favor of, and we want to promote a healthier work-life balance for our employees as well. And so we're definitely looking, and we would love to look at a 4-day work week. When I started, many moons ago, it was 35 hours, then they slowly went up to 37 and a half, and then they went to 40, and things have just been, going kind of that way. But in order for the city of Hartford to retain and attract talent, we got to do something, because doing the same thing and expecting different results, we all know what that means, right? And we have to do something. So we're ready and willing to work with administration and you all to do what we need to do for our members and for our employees.
Well, Council President, let's see how you can follow up that. So,
I can't follow up that. Absolutely not, except for I totally agree. As a former city employee, absolutely, the work-life balance was important for the 4 days work week. And believe me, people are going and looking, trying to get those amenities. So yes, maybe what you can do is write a proposal, and what the cost will be to the city, and union-wise, and let us know what that will be. But I totally agree with the Assistant Majority Leader. Thank you very much for your presentation. So basically, you only have one vacancy now, because of you
For
filled.
human resources,
Yeah,
we have 2.
Well, you have a principal human resource analyst. Oh, is it?
Yes,
Okay, so
and
you only
the HR administrator.
so an HR administrator
Yes.
and an HR analyst.
No, the HR analyst was just filled on April 8th, so we have that position.
Oh, so
filled.
Darlene is the HR analyst.
Yes.
Sorry, I put the wrong name. So you still have a vacancy in your principal human resource analyst.
Yes. And
Okay.
for- Yep, and the HR administrator.
And how long have you had that vacancy?
We've had it for a while, and let me just tell you that, we believe, and I believe strongly in promoting from within. So, we need some help in labor, and what I would love to do if I had a couple of more positions is if I had, I know I didn't get asked this question, but I'm gonna say it anyway. If I had a wish list, I would ask for
There you
2,
go. You didn't ask her for his wish list.
were you gonna ask me that?
Yes, he was supposed to ask
Oh,
you
yeah,
that.
because I
So
didn't get that question.
Go ahead and ask about
Everybody
the
else
wish
got
list.
that question, but I want to know too what I can.
The chairman we usually do 2 rounds, so that was gonna be my second round,
Oh,
but
okay.
you can just give
Okay.
it out. I'll write it down.
Okay. Well,
So,
I
so I'm
would
sorry,
like-
can you
I would
repeat
like
those?
Christmas in April as well, but
Can you repeat those again? What was it again?
I'm
That you-
sorry?
What was your wish?
She hasn't
my
said it.
wish list would be 2 HR analyst positions, and what I would like to do with those positions is move and elevate current staff, and as we're trying to do, and elevate them into the vacant positions that we have, and we can have the new employees come in and able to deal with the departments and so forth and so on. So, that's all.
Okay, you happy now? Good. So, but you don't have anyone away from Deb in labor relations. So basically,
Right.
you really need to, more than anything else, prioritize that department more than anything else.
Right, so what I was saying is that if I can, right now I have 1 senior analyst working with Deb to assist in labor, but the same individual is also in charge of 2 very large departments, fire and DPW. So if I had another analyst come in, I would be able to give departments, to other analysts, and that would free up Brittany. Brittany is the one who I'm referring to. She would be able to work 100% in labor, but we can't do it yet because Brittany has some major departments. And, so that's how I would like to do it.
Okay, so basically, you just need to fill, maybe when you fill that vacant HR analyst position?
The HR analyst is filled.
I'm sorry.
In the-
No, sorry. That's right. That's Darlene. I got to put her name here.
And we've been trying to cross-train our employees, so Pam also is cross-trained now in labor, so Pam helps hear grievances and write decisions and helps with other HR matters, and we've been giving all of the analysts an opportunity to learn labor, because I think if we're all cross-trained, then we don't get into this point, right, where I'm the only one right now technically in labor. We have recruited for that position in the past. We did hire someone once at a lower level, at a senior, but they left us. And so after that, when we did not get any applications with anyone with labor experience, and like Marlene said, we like to promote from within and give people the opportunity for growth. That's when we kept this one open for a bit so that we could train some people in those who are interested in labor relations, that ability to move upward into this position.
I do definitely agree with promoting within. Looking at your budget, one of the things I see is you spend about 215,000 in contractual consulting services. One of the goals of the mayor's in the mayoral budget, he had in the budget doing about 50 new recruiting for police officers. A couple of things I've heard over the years is the turnaround time. So basically, you know, an interested someone, interested in a police officer, it takes up to maybe 90 days after they pass their physical, written, and oral exam. You use a consultant actually to do the written and oral test, but the turnaround time is taking forever to get that information back. And the other towns have a quicker turnaround time. That's what I'm hearing. Not true. Correct that, because I'm hearing about 6 to 8 weeks, the turnaround time after the written and oral exam is done. Use a consultant firm to take care of those.
Well, one thing we have been doing to make the police officer processes quicker is our analyst now is trying to get the testing process done in a quicker time frame. So instead of it taking months just even get through the testing process, we've started trying to do it in just a weekend. So the last test, we were actually able to do the physical agility one weekend, and the following weekend did the written and oral, which it gave us the opportunity to give those written and oral exams to the consulting company to grade so that they could get them both back to us faster, instead of they were receiving the written test first, and the way the municipal code was written was that the applicants had to pass each individual component of testing before they could move forward. So that would put us a little bit on a hold. But when we changed the municipal code to change some of the recruiting and civil service procedures, that's one of the changes that we made, was that they do have to pass each component of the police officer exam. However, they can continue on through all of those exams before we receive those results. So what we do now is test quicker to get the test to the consulting company quicker, and so we should be getting results a lot quicker with that as well.
So what is the turnaround time?
I don't have the exact on the top of my head, but we can definitely get that for you, but it definitely has been quicker. There is a little bit of a holdup with oral exams sometimes, because the post requirement does require it to have one of our police officers on the panel for reviewing as well. So they do have to work with the police department and their availability, send us packets to give to them. So that has a little bit of a process, but it hasn't been 6 to 8 weeks since that I can remember recently, especially since we've started doing the testing process quicker, but we can definitely get those results for you.
Because isn't the written test like a
Yep, multiple choice on a Scantron.
multiple choice?
Yes.
And so I think the oral may be a little bit, longer.
Yes, so the oral exams, they will videotape the responses of the applicants, and then that goes to our consulting company, and they usually work with a couple people that they hire to put on a panel, as well as one Connecticut police officer.
Okay, so if you can just get me that turnaround time,
Sure.
after how long the consulting company actually, returns that before, and correct me, before you can go on to the next stage, you have to have those physical and the written and oral passed first before you can go to the next stage.
In order for them to get on the certification list and start the
Certification
background
list.
process, yes.
Okay. Now, the next part is we're now talking about, you know, the polygraph and the psychological test. I think the city has done better over the years, because from the complaints back, you know, over the years I've heard. Could you tell me, for the polygraph and the psychological test, do you have any minority firms who give those tests?
That's not under us.
That's HPD.
Yeah.
We have nothing to do with the background process at all.
So that for the polygraph and they're, I'm sorry, okay. So they're the ones who actually hire the company that does the polygraph and the psychological part.
Yes.
Okay. So I got to go back to them for the list of those. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting my questions. And so, we never finished, got an answer for the 200 and about 215, 213 for your contractual services. What companies are you hiring for those contractual services? I believe you have about 199,000 in your civil servant management division, and another 15,000 from contractual services in the benefits and administration.
Our testing vendor is Morrison McDaniel.
And which one is that, for what department?
That is for civil service.
The civil service?
Yes.
And what do they do for us?
They do the entry-level police exam, written and oral, as well as all of the promotional exams for police and fire. And they will work with us for entry-level firefighter as well, since we're doing that recruitment this year.
Okay. And then the one under the civil servant?
That's the one
That's the
under
one.
civil. Yep.
And then, so the one under the benefits? Yeah, benefits administration.
If that's the 15,000 one, if that's the line item, that's a particular program we've had here for a number of years, which is a diabetic rewards program.
And what kind of awards, I'm
A
sorry?
diabetic rewards program. So employees and their family members that take their required exams for diabetes, they're pre-diabetic, they'll receive a $40 a month stipend. So we have a number of people that are participants in that, so they can, you know, try the low-hanging fruit to make sure that they actually manage their diabetes.
I remember when I was working for the state, we had something for high blood pressure, diabetes, and if you don't do that, what happens if they don't participate in the program?
Well, it's a voluntary program, but, you know, it's, you know, a large percentage of our population is pre-diabetic or diabetic, and we certainly want to make sure that they keep track of that ailment, and it's becoming a sort of an epidemic, and it's become more and more of an important program for us to have. Just a little bit of incentive for people to go to their doctors.
Well, I'm looking back at 23, the actual budget. You know, it doesn't seem like a lot of people are actually taking advantage of this $40.
No, it's not a lot of people. So it's, you know, I'd have to take a look at the figures. There's a lot of people enrolled in the program. However, you have to be compliant, and maybe making sure you take your A1C, your foot exam, your eye exam. So there's a couple of different exams you have to take. And only until you are compliant will you get the $40 a month.
Could you just tell me for last fiscal year, how many people signed up?
I can get that information
Okay,
for you.
great, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, I want to ask a couple of questions. So we got some partial answers for my question now, which is related to the other tech and professional services and consulting line items. But I want to focus more on the actual expenses that have been committed or not during this fiscal year so far. So, for example, under the administration, for other tech and professional services, we have a budget of $200,000 this year, but only 45 has been spent through December. So the first 6 months, only 45,000. Is there are these like seasonal expenses in this particular case that, because for next year, the recommendation is to keep it at $200,000. And I'm just curious to see if the expenses are not coming through for any particular reason.
Where are you again? Sorry.
Under the administration, so,
No, it's under civil service management,
you know, under administration. Yeah, it's under administration, Road 391.
not 391,
391.
got the 200,000.
Yeah.
So we have been using that so far. We started the year using that with Lumi Marketing Firm, and they were mostly using that for Indeed. We've been putting a lot of our jobs up on Indeed with sponsored postings, because that is the platform that we find we get the most results from. So that is so far what we've used it for. We are also planning a HR job fair that we're putting on as the city that all the departments will be able to attend, that is going to come out of that funding as well. The bus ads still had to come out of that funding as well, which is a significant cost, as well as the other marketing initiatives that we're doing for the second half of the year. So we did start a little slower. We tend to be a little more conservative at the start of the year, and then we try to, kind of do a little bit more, and once the weather gets a little bit better, we do more with the bus ads and things like that. And there are some pending invoices as well with Lumi and more marketing.
So knowing that if this budget gets approved in the way that it's being presented, knowing that you're going to start with the same amount of 200,000, would you also be as conservative in the first few months of the year, or you're going to be aggressive to get hiring, marketing going early in the year?
Well, we started a little more conservative the last few years just because it was new, and what our goal was at the time was really to promote just jobs in general at the city. We wanted people to know that you didn't just have to be a Hartford resident, that we didn't just hire fire and police. We wanted them to be more aware of the different levels of experience and things. So we spent more money on trying to kind of get generalized things out. What we plan to be more aggressive with in the next year is more focused on professional series, so we know that we can spend more money to look for inspectors and things along those lines. So we want to focus and be more aggressive on particular areas now that we've gotten a lot of the generalized marketing out and a lot more awareness of the positions that are here at the city.
All right, perfect. So moving down a few rows down, when Council President asks about the row 407 for contract consultant services under civil service management, 199,000 recommended budget. You listed the name of the consulting or at least what it is that they do. Is there any reason why through December no expenses have shown whatsoever in the first 6 months?
We haven't had any promotional testing by that point in the year, so our police and fire contracts have appendixes that tell you when we need to start testing and creating the list for those positions, and they are good for promotional lists. For police are good for 2 years, for fire are 3 years, so it really depends on when that list is expiring and when we need to recruit for them.
Okay. The increase of $95,000 on that line, any particular reason for that additional funding?
Yes, we will be doing entry-level firefighter recruitment next fiscal year, which is not something we do every year. It's about every 3 years, and that's a significant cost. We usually get over 300 applications, and we have to put on the physical is quite a feat. We usually have to rent out the armory. We get equipment from other services. We have to pay for some consultants who come and evaluate the test, things like that. So it's a pretty significant cost when we do that recruitment.
Okay. And my last question for this round will be, with all this marketing that you've been doing, whether it's the buses and some of the other ones that you showed on the presentation, how do you make sure, or at least gather data to show the effectiveness of that particular marketing strategy, as opposed to any other ones that maybe you put to the side in order to prioritize this one? How do you make sure that it's working? And if it's not working, then to know early enough to, you know, to rectify and find other ways of doing it?
So that does depend on which initiative we're talking about. So for example, for the bus ads, it's kind of hard to tell how many people exactly are putting eyes on that bus, right? But there is a QR code on there, and we are able to track how many scans that QR code gets. So we are able to see about halfway through the 12-week program how many QR codes that bus has received. Well, all of the buses have received, and then we can make a decision from there if we want to continue the bus ads. What we wanted to do this year was do it at different seasons to see which season we're really getting the most QR hits so that we can continue using that season moving forward. We didn't really do any in the winter. There's not as many people out in the winter, but so we will track that QR code. For Indeed, they have a really good platform that allows us to see how many clicks each job posting gets, and how many clicks to apply it gets, how many impressions it gets. So we can kind of tell, you know, who has clicked on it just to view it, who has clicked on it to go to the company website. Those ones are really how we can track it. It can be a little difficult with things like the flyer, because we would require, for us to know how successful exactly that was, the applicant would have to put on the application that they found the position through that flyer, and unfortunately, not every applicant fills out that question or fills it out accurately, but we do know, at least with the flyers, we do definitely get more foot traffic in the office from that, so we do know that that can be more successful, and we do get a lot more phone calls from that.
Can that question be mandatory?
We do make it mandatory on there. It just, unfortunately, we just don't know how honest people are being.
Sure.
But we do have it mandatory on
So
there.
my last question before I move on, that QR code that you mentioned for the for the buses,
Yes.
is that different than any other QR code that we get in the mailer? If it's like for job openings, not for specific positions, because I know I got the one for lifeguard at home. I know that QR code is specifically for that particular side of the webpage. But for job openings, is it different compared to the other ones?
Yes, so the
Okay.
one on the bus ads will just be the generalized one, so we won't know what positions they are clicking on particularly, but that will show you the generalized ones, whereas the flyer has its own for lifeguard, its own for police cadet, and its own for rec assistant.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna have Councilwoman Rosado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Director Fleeting. How are you and team?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. So first of all, I want to commend you for the presentation, a very thorough presentation. So I have a couple of questions. Can you tell me if Mayor Arunan or if this administration kept I believe what's called the PRC committee, or has the recruitment and hiring process changed in this administration?
Currently, we are still doing PRC, so we're still having our PRC meetings and continuing the process that we've had. I'm not sure if it's going to change, but for right now, we currently have PRC.
Okay. And can you elaborate a little bit for my new council colleagues exactly what that is?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Could you elaborate for my council colleague what exactly is the PRC committee?
Okay, so the PRC committee stands for Position Review Committee. That is something that was formed back in 2016 when the city were on the pretty much brinks of bankruptcy. So Mayor Bronin wanted to, at the time, he wanted to see all positions that people were applying for, or any type of salary, well, he wanted to see any type of salary changes or increases that department heads would ask for. Anything that kind of impacted the budget, he wanted to see it, so he formed this committee. Now, we meet every week, and what happens is the departments can submit their vacancies, and they submit what they want to, positions they want to have filled. They also submit salary justifications. So say they have an approval for a position, and we figure out what that position would start at, and they want that salary increased. They would have to present that to the PRC, which means they put it, it's an Excel spreadsheet, they work with our analysts, and then the analysts give it to me, and I present it to mayor and team. And we only have 2 reasons why we would do salary justifications per code, and that's for lack of eligibles or extraordinary qualifications. So every week we meet with prior mayor, and now we meet with new mayor Arunan and team, and we go over each department that submits a PRC. And if it's approved, mayor would approve, and then I say, okay, we go downstairs, and the department, our analysts will let the departments know if their PRC was approved or denied or put on hold, and why.
Thank you for that explanation. I know that when so the last administration, we had conversations with Human Resources about updating some of the job descriptions. And I can't remember who recommended that, when we update some of these positions, that we also include or equivalent experience, so that it'd be more open to individuals who knew the job, had the job experience, but didn't have, the master's or the education level that the job description required. So is that something that's being looked at?
Yes, that is something that we've currently have done and we're continuing to do. I'll let Deb elaborate, but I do want to say that we have, I was very big on doing that, wanting that to happen as well, Councilwoman Rosado, because obviously everybody know, well, some people know I came from the union before I came over to this position, and those things as HMIA Vice President was troubling to me, they were troubling to me when you have an employee who are constantly being told that they don't qualify, however, they're actually doing their work currently. And so we worked with HMIA with a lot of positions to help with qualifications, and I'll let Deb give you the numbers.
Yeah. So this past year, we have updated job descriptions, the minimum qualifications, and jobs salaries. Not all three for all of the jobs, but for 29 positions. Last year, we did a bit more. In total, in 2 years so far, we've done 70 changes in our job descriptions and salaries. So in lots of those job descriptions, when we're looking at the minimum qualifications, we're trying to add equivalencies where we can. Obviously, a nurse needs a nursing degree, so we can't do an equivalency for that. But we have added equivalencies to many of those job descriptions, and then those that don't have it, we also have an internal procedure that allows for lower education requirement and then additional years of service in the experience category to help them get them over that threshold if they don't have the required education. So we've also added to our HMIA collective bargaining agreement and our 1716 bargaining agreement committees to look at positions. So we continue to partner with them and look at critical positions every year. So we'll continue this process not only from the union perspective, but also from the departments.
Thank you, and I also want to say that I support the 4-day work week. I did have a conversation last week with Director Fleeting, so I'm really looking forward to hearing about that. And then my last question, do we have an employee referral program, meaning employees that refer other employees for employment in the city of Hartford?
We do, you mean like if they get a bonus or dollars or something like that?
Yeah, yes.
I'm not aware of anything across the board, but we did negotiate with 1716 for dispatchers that if they refer someone and they put them on their application, because that's the only way we know if they were referred, that particular employee will get a bonus. And that's not only just in the dispatch center, but it's only any 1716 employee who refers someone as a dispatcher and that person gets hired, then they will get something.
Do you plan on doing that across the board or in other departments?
Not at this time, but it's certainly something we could bring up with leadership. We'd have to look at the cost of it and get approval to negotiate it.
Thank you. I have other questions, but I will email you, Director Fleeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rosado.
Thank you. Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening. Question that came up a couple of years ago that we spent a lot of time talking about, and we've hit on various parts of it tonight, but I haven't heard the sum total number. How many vacancies do we have in the entire workforce at this point in time?
We have 117 vacancies, and when you add, and that's not including police, police has 108 to date.
So the total would
So
then be
225.
225?
Yes.
Now, the number I'd heard, as I recall, I'm going to say about 2 years ago when we talked about this in depth, was, I think, was 200 vacancies at the time. And what I don't recall, I assume that number included police. Are we,
It included police.
it did include police?
It did.
Yeah. So we really haven't made much headway then over the last 2 years. It sounds like we've got the same number of vacancies, if not a few more. Or am I missing something?
So it did not include police. I was staying corrected.
It did not
It
include,
did not
okay.
include police.
So the
And-
200 number has gone down to 117.
To 117. And, we've hired 223 employees and we promoted 84. So as far as vacancies, we've been working really hard on vacancies and the number has decreased.
Okay, well, I could see that,
Yeah.
the hiring. I just wanted to see what the absolute numbers, because I know when it was 200, there was a lot of concern, and we had a lot of conversation about different ways, changing those job descriptions, doing more
Yes.
recruiting and things like that.
And that's exactly what the team has been doing and working tirelessly to do so, in hiring and in marketing. And we have, we have pamphlets that we created and that we have, not only that, we've had interest cards. I had staff literally going, down Park Street, handing out, putting our interest cards and putting our flyers into the bodegas, into the libraries, going down North Main Street, doing the same thing. So we don't just rely on bus ads and Indeed. We physically get on foot and do what we need to do to try to promote our jobs, to the best of our ability.
Well, it certainly sounds like it's been working. You talked with the chair about the budget, the line item for some of the recruitment, and I believe this was the $200,000 line item, line 391. Is there other money spent in your budget? Because in your presentation, you said about 50% of your entire budget is either for recruitment or for employee testing. So I can see 200,000 that you've already mentioned for recruitment. My question is there other monies in here that are also being spent on recruitment efforts? Or is it all in that one line item?
No, the contract consulting services, all the employment services, that civil service management, 125001, that's all our recruiting team. Everything they do, physicals, testing, everything in that area is all of our team.
I'm sorry, okay, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. So when you say it's allocated for recruitment, that's in-house as well as contract services. I guess my question, I'm just asking what other contract services you utilize? Or are your contract services limited to that one line item?
The only other contract service that we're using with recruitment is NeoGov, which is our system that we post our positions on and accept applications. It's our applicant tracking system, so that comes out of our budget as well.
Is that in this same line item?
It is in the civil service management. I'm not sure exactly which line item it comes out of there. We could get that exactly for you, but our applicant tracking
407?
system does come out of there.
And then our backgrounds and our physicals also come out of that. I think it's other technical and professional services.
It is. Yep.
Okay, got it, thank you. And I don't have any other questions, but I want to repeat what I heard in the answer to one question, just to make sure I heard it right. And if I heard it right, I'm repeating it to emphasize it, because I think the public needs to hear it like multiple times. I believe you said that of all the prescriptions that all the employees in the city of Hartford get, 1.4% of them. So if we get, I think you said 37,000 prescriptions or something like that. So it's like 300 or 400 of those prescriptions are accounting for 50% of the dollars that we spend on prescription drugs. Do I have that statistic?
That is correct.
That is an appalling statistic and clearly indicates to me that the prescriptive drug industry in this country is way, way out of control. And I would certainly hope that people above us, since we don't have much control over the prescriptive drug industry, but I would certainly hope that our state and our federal governments start paying a good deal more attention to these things. And among other things, and now I'm preaching here, not asking a question, but I'm a politician, I got a microphone, so. I am also appalled at the number of ads on television for prescription drugs. They never used to be allowed to do that. I don't know why they're allowed to do that. Clearly, this just ramps up the public's interest in stuff that they, if their doctor's not really recommending it, they're just, the drug companies, it seems to me, are just pushing the marketing on these things. So anyway, I'll get off the soapbox, but thank you for that statistic. It really needs to be addressed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director Fleeting and team, for the presentation and the work. I want to actually follow up on the question of vacancies. And, we know like those police vacancies, which make up like half the vacancies, are sort of, I want to say aspirational, in the sense that like there's been about 370 police for, I don't know, all the time I've been on council, but the goal has been 470. So I want to ask about the non-police vacancies. If you know, how long do those vacancies stay open, right? I mean, those police ones, they've sort of been open forever, but is that also the case that they're sort of aspirational vacancies otherwise, or are those things that like people are coming, people are going, it's more fluid?
There are some vacancies that do stay open a little bit longer, more so not as they're aspirational, but just they have particular sets of qualifications that we can't really, wiggle around, like a civil engineer. It's harder to pull those people in, especially with, the salaries that we are able to offer. But some vacancies move very quickly. Our administrative assistant moves quickly. Our maintainer one moves extremely quickly. We just closed that recruitment today with 119 applications, and they have to be Hartford residents. That's a huge one. So some vacancies move very, very quickly. Some that stay on mostly stay on because they're just a very particular set of qualifications and a specific person that they're looking for that makes it a little more challenging to recruit for.
Actually, that perfect segue into my next couple of questions. I mean, we've talked about this question about sort of the underlying problem with filling vacancies is pay and benefits, right? Like we can't compete with our neighbors. In terms of those sort of specialized jobs, is there any procedure or any set of things you can do if we find that there's some job that we're not filling it, right? Like we're not getting applicants, and we know that because those applicants are going to Glastonbury or wherever, what do we do? What's the procedure when you are faced with a job like that, a position like that?
We do reach out to other cities most times, especially when we have a longer vacancy, to see if they're having a similar issue with an opening of that particular position or area of expertise. But we really try to just work with the departments. They're really the experts on where we can try to recruit for people. So we will reach out to them and try to recruit through maybe some organizations, professional organizations that they have, or magazines or things like that. Sometimes it just takes a long time and our hands are a little bit tied because our benefits are our benefits and the salaries are our salaries sometimes. You can't raise them. We can't pay a civil engineer more than we're paying a director or something along those lines. So we do the best that we can, and we try to do the best that we can when we recruit, to have conversations with potential applicants to let them know that, okay, maybe you might see a little bit lower salary, but here are other benefits for working for the city. There's other reasons that you can come into it. We try to capture some people who are retiring from the state who might want to come in and still do their line of work and aren't as interested in as high of a salary, or people who are trying to transition maybe from the public or private sector and want to get into municipal work, is where we try to focus it and try to just have more conversations. That's why we're trying to attend more job fairs, so that we can really get out and talk to people instead of them just seeing this kind of plain black and white posting that goes up with a salary and a bunch of paragraphs of words.
And in doing that, we do everything that Pam just said, and at the end of the day, you have the applicant who have their choice of where they want to work, right? We do everything, and they say, okay, I have this particular set of skills, so I'm going to go over here and do this amount of work compared to the city of Hartford, who has this amount of work with less pay. So we continue to face these challenges nonstop. But we're, like Pam said, we're going to work with the subject matter experts. We're going to continue to do that. We've also increased salaries, like Deb worked to do the Inspector 2 series for DDS, the planning series. We did bonuses when you come in, and what does people do? They come in, they get the bonus, and then adios, City of Hartford. I'm going to go over here to Avon because I can do less work and, for comparable salary or most likely higher salary. So we are trying to think of new and innovative ways, and we definitely welcome any suggestions that you all may have.
Let me ask you about that, because you talked about the 4-day work week as like a possible draw.
Oh, I think it's a great retention tool or an attraction tool.
What are other things either that you're thinking about that you would like to explore that maybe you don't have the resources to explore? I mean, putting aside pay raises and benefits increases, which are the obvious ones. I'm going to say the sort of the creative, not money up front ones, but maybe that need a little bit of money for research or development. Like, what are other things that are out there in the HR world that you feel like you could be doing to make up for those deficits?
I mean, I think that we do appreciate the money that was given to us or allocated for our marketing and recruitment. And like Pam said, we're going to use that now more aggressively to look at different ways we can be creative with hiring. So we will do that as well. If there were any other things, I mean, I think we would be a good retention or attraction tool and retentive tool is to offer some type of incentive for school, for education, right? We do have tuition reimbursement, but I'm saying actually like, hey, we'll pay towards this program if you want to do this, right? Again, it may be, I don't know if we have the budget to do that within the city, but some employers, hey, you come and work over here, we're going to put X amount of dollars into your tuition for the year or into your, certifications, right? I did have 2 employees, Pam to my right, and another young lady, Brittany, who they went to Houston, right? And they went to a COMPELRA, which is the Connecticut National Employment Public Relations public relations, and they went to a program. They were there for a week. They had to do some really gruesome testing and actually classroom exercises and get that material, and then they had to test and they had to pass to become certified, and they're certified labor professionals, right? And so now I have an additional 2 certified labor professionals in my department, but in order to get them to where I need them to be, I got to get some more staff in. But to your question, we can continue to have directors and department heads utilize this line items that we have for staff development.
That was actually, so like where in this, but where does that come from when you pay for someone to get that certification?
For right, staff training services.
Okay.
That's where I used it, right, Julian? Oh, are you citywide, you mean?
Well, is it in every department? It's in a different thing?
Yes, for
Okay.
every department has
Understood.
their line item.
And then I guess my last question, still on this sort of general topic, is given that we're behind in pay and we're behind in benefits in terms of our, the competition, other towns, like if we theoretically had money to burn, where do we get more bang for our buck? Like, can we beef up benefits in a way that we're more, do you follow what I'm saying? In other words, how do we get to be where we're more competitive more cheaply, with benefits or with pay?
Well, I don't think go ahead, Rich. I'll say myself.
Our benefits are comparable. The pay is not. However, we do have in our contracts payment in lieu of. I've worked in another municipality where the payment in lieu of was half of the premium amount that the city would have to pay. but that was many years ago, and the premiums weren't that high. However, now, our payment in lieu ofs are capped at $2,500 for a family, let's say, but the insurance cost is $35,000 a year. So let's be realistic. If you up that to 5,000 to 7, whatever the case may be, doing the cost benefit, you can, actuarially, you're going to be on the good in the long run. If every contract had that, or if it was rolled out by MOA or what have you, yeah, it'd be a little bit of money on the front end, but, that's money in somebody's pocket. And I know we were talking about soft dollar costs, what can we do without spending money? I mean, that's really it, and Councilman Clark brought up a 4-day work week. Absolutely. You're saving people gas money, you're work-life balance, like it was mentioned. Everybody's doing it, and we're losing competition because we're not. So things like we're outside of the box, like you were saying, I hate using that term, outside of the box, because everybody uses it, but opportunities where people can say, hey, let me get off this insurance plan, go on my spouse's with the family, I'll make $5K extra, but in the end, the city's saving $30,000 actuarially. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah,
And I'll
appreciate
add on to Rich's 2 cents. I think it's way more than 2 cents, Rich, also. But I would like to say also, to answer your question, for me, my answer would be salaries. You're looking at this generation, this is not like it used to be before, right? I started working here 23 years ago in September, and it was not like, it's not like it was 23 years ago. This generation now is looking for salaries. They're looking to how they can feed their families when a gallon of milk is $7 or $5. They're not looking to, what is my PPO going to be versus, can I get a prescription here or there? This is just day to day, how can I feed my family? So this generation is going to be looking for salaries and growth opportunities, real life hardcore issues. That's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you for your cumulative 4 cents, and I'll pass the mic.
Councilman Thomas.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, Director Fleeting. And I just wanted to say thank you to, I see a lot of HR people in the room, and I thank all you guys for coming today. It was an awesome presentation. I had a few questions. The first one being the flyers and stuff. You guys make that in-house, or is that part of the...
We used the marketing firm. They created it. We gave them the idea because the lifeguards and the rec assistants, it's that time of year that we need to get them recruited in the door. So we wanted to do that and give it out to Hartford residents as well as police cadet. But we did create, our staff did create like the pamphlets and things like that that will go out to candidate or applicants and to let them know our application process, benefits for working for the city, things like that. That was created in-house. And a lot of what you see on the digital signage on the ground floor of City Hall has been created by our staff as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome stuff on the ground floor. My other question was going to be, I get emails like probably everybody else from Miss Stacy. Yes. Yes. And so I wanted to know, like, when they're doing like chair massages, right? How many people like take advantage of some of the, things that you market and things like that?
Actually, for the past few months when we've had these scheduled, they've been full.
That's
So we're going to
good.
continue to bring Sovita Chiropractic back as long as they're willing to do it and offer it for free and continue to do those chair massages. I'm sure it helps out, especially during budget season.
That's right. That's right. And then my last thing I was going to say is, it's actually not a question, but we are, according to the appendix, us having almost 24% male, members of our HR department. We're right at the national average of males in the HR department. I just wanted to say that's really awesome that the city of Hartford is right there at the national average. If anything, I would just like to see us maybe recruit some more men into the HR department.
Well, we are a little higher than that because our new hire is a male. So we actually are now above the 23%. So
Yes, it's Dario, right?
yes.
Yes. I met him. Yeah, he seems good. Yeah. But yeah, that's all I have. And thank you guys for the work that you guys do. And thank you for your constant emails, Miss Stacy.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna try a round two and see how this goes, because we got two more departments to go after this one. So, Councilman Clark said one question, so we're gonna see that. We're gonna see how true that is. Councilman Clark.
Well, the director already gave her wish list, so I don't have to, unless there's additional to your
No.
wish list, no?
You want something? You want anything, Deb? Yeah. No. Rich? No, the two vacant, well, actually, the two HR analyst positions will be great.
The marketing firm that you contracted with, who are they?
It's Lumi Marketing Firm?
Lumi?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I know they work with development services as well. I think they did all the marketing for
Domingo?
Domingo.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
presentation and your hard work.
Thank you.
That was 1.5 there. All right, Council President.
I'm impressed. I don't have a question. I don't have a question, just have a statement. In first term, in comparison to the conversations we've had at HR, budget hearings, I would say you guys have tremendously improved the marketing, the actual job description we talked about, a couple years ago, thinking outside the box with the training program for drivers. Can't remember what the name of that is. I just want to commend you and your staff for doing that, because all the things we talked about over the last term and coming into this term, you started accomplishing it. So thank you, and thank you, staff, for doing so.
Thank you.
All right. I normally like to spend some time on KPIs, but today I'm just only going to do one. There's a few, but I'll do the other ones afterwards. I'm only going to do one KPI question. So on your budget book 18-5, there's one that just caught my attention, right? It's not a bad thing, but because I'm projected for 2024 for grievances, the projection was, 22 grievances filed, 20 resolved. I know in your presentation you said that 21 have been closed, 81% of them were done internally, or I can't remember now in the presentation, but it's still a good number. It's like 17 out of the 23. But then on your estimate for next year, then it kind of goes downhill a little bit. So I just want to kind of know, after such a good record this year so far, you're saying that you're projecting that 30 grievances will be filed, but only 19 will be resolved. Is there any particular reason why that dropped in that particular KPI?
I kind of do an average when I look at this, and then I also look at what grievances we had. So unfortunately, while we've been having a good year, I can tell you we have a new fire union president, and my projected number is already blown. It's not 22 grievances. We already have 26 to date. So they've been filing quite a few grievances, and sometimes too, when we have some contract years, sometimes we don't resolve as many grievances. So because we have a couple of contracts open, we went a little bit lower, but I also do it by average. So I kind of average out all the years. I do a look back over the 4 or 5 year period, and I say, okay, what have we been closing on an annual basis? And so I project it on an average basis, as well as what's going on currently. And as I said, right now I'm getting a lot more grievances, and they're taking them to arbitration. So I'm not sure if that trend's going to continue, or if we're going to be able to kind of slow that down. I'm hoping it's the latter, and that we can slow it down and we can start to have more conversations and close them in-house. I can say today we did close 2 in fire, so I'm very happy about that. I didn't necessarily expect them to be closed so quickly, but I'm happy about that. So.
And I will just add to that, speaking from past union leadership, with what's happening now, and because of the Janus decision, now the presidents and the vice presidents and their executive team, they're bringing everything to grievance level, right? We can tell you some things, we won't say it here, but privately, and you would be amazed at things that are being grieved, where you would think that, oh, this is just like, this should be just normal, 1 + 1, but it's not that. And they're bringing everything to grievance. And also, when you have a contract negotiation coming up and you have a new president, you're gonna want to please members. So if a member is saying, hey, I'm paying my dues, I want you to grieve it, that's what you're gonna do. So we meet regularly, Deb and team, with fire union, police union. We have these collegial meetings, and those are the topics that we talk about. And they'll tell us, like, hey, I got to bring it to you, that they want to grieve it, so I got to do it, right? So that increases our numbers here, but that's the kind of background reason why.
So is there any step before an actual official grievance with HR? Is there any step before that anybody can take before it gets to that level of actually filing a grievance within the HR department?
We always encourage them to come and talk to us if there's, a matter that's going on, and oftentimes they will. But there's been lots of discipline in the various departments, holding people accountable, and almost like Marlene said, especially after the Janus decision, where, members can leave the union, and also all of our contracts allow an employee to grieve to our level. So because most of them have been disciplined, they'll just automatically start at our step, and they won't go to a lower step.
Thank you. Okay, well, it seems like we are done with questions. So thank you very much for this presentation, and thank you for the whole team for being here. Behind you, that's really speaks a lot about the unity of your team. So I really appreciate seeing the whole team here with you. And now we're going to take a 5-minute break before we have internal audit come to the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We now have our internal audit department at the table. So please, Chief Auditor Craig Trujillo, the floor is yours.
Good evening. That's a hard act to follow, HR. I'm Craig Trujillo. I'm the Chief Auditor for the city. I'll go through the presentation. It's not much change from last year, but just the numbers changed. I run the internal audit department, and we have a legal mandate according to the charter and the municipal code. The municipal code says there shall be an internal audit commission and an internal audit that shall be a department of the city of Hartford. The second point is the commission and the department shall conduct independent examinations and evaluations of the city's financial activities to assure the integrity, the efficiency, and the efficacy of the government of the city, including the Board of Education. Also, I should have on here the parking authority, the baseball stadium. That'll show up later. Back when Eddie Perez was made, we changed the charter to a strong mayor. Prior to that, internal audit was actually called City Council Internal Audit, and the internal auditor reported to City Council. When the charter was changed and gave the mayor more power, I don't know who did this, but they were brilliant when they did it. They formed an internal audit commission, which is made up of 3 individuals, and they have to have certain qualifications, either financial background, legal, whatever. They're the only 3 commissioners in the city that do not have to live in Hartford. That was interesting also. And they have 4-year terms. One is selected by the treasurer, one is selected by city council, and it used to be the top 10 taxpayers. With the charter revision, was it last year or the year before? We actually changed that, and it's, I forget what council in the city, but they'll nominate 2 people to council, and you folks will pick one of them. And I think your selection right now might be Ted. That was your selection, was Ted C. I think Martin came from the last one, top 10 taxpayers. So you won't have to worry about that for the next couple of years. I report directly to the Internal Audit Commission, directly. I don't report to the mayor, I don't report to city council, I report to no one in the city but the Internal Audit Commission. That maintains my independence. And like I said, it was established and intended to provide oversight for the strong mayor form of government. Our areas of responsibility are like any internal audit department in any major corporation or any municipality. The auditable areas of the city, and you start with the departments. So we have the city of Hartford, all the city departments in Hartford, the Hartford Public School System, which is under our area responsibility, the parking authority, the libraries, the management of the MRF, grant management, the management of grants come from the federal or the state governments, and the baseball stadium contract adherence. We don't get involved with the stadium operations, but it's their adherence to the contract with the city. Let's see, where are we? Our mission statement hasn't changed, remains the same. Our mission is to provide independent and objective audits, reviews, special investigations, management consulting, and assessments of business activities, operations, financial systems, and data security, and disaster recovery also. And we do operational and financial internal audits. Part of our mission is to assist city management and elected officials to carry out continuous quality improvement initiatives, promote operational effectiveness and efficiency, safeguarding of city assets, and ensure compliance to the city municipal code, policies, and established procedures across the board. The Internal Audit Department, we accomplish this mission by carrying out an audit plan. Every year around this time, I do my audit plan for the next fiscal year. And we commit to doing 20 internal audits across the board based on our risk assessments. It's hard to budget for special investigations and special reviews from a time standpoint, but I do allocate some time for those when we get calls either on the hotline or we get tips through the commission, or someone calls me and say, I think we got a problem here, et cetera. Our recommended budget. Our budget for this year is recommended at $554,861, which is a 3.8% increase. And by the way, I have no control over it. But basically 99% of it is all salaries. I have about $20,000 in 2 or 3 line items for conferences, CP training, new laptop here and there, whatever. Most of that number comes from M&B. And by the way, my 4 staff are all in HMEA. They're all in the union. And combined, our staff is aging. Combined, we have about 150, 175 years worth of internal audit experience. So some retirements are coming down the pike. Then we're going to have to be, one of the challenges is going to be recruiting. And we can talk about it if you have any questions about that. The highlights for the first 10 months, we've got 12 audit reports issued. There's 5 or 6 in progress right now. So we should hit our goal of 20 audits by the end of the fiscal year. We're using somewhat, not fully our audit software, but we're working on that. We still have our process, and we're winding down. We're really catching up. We're actually almost all caught up on following up on internal audit recommendations from prior audit reports. So management says they're going to implement this control by December of 2023. We looked at that to make sure that it did get implemented. I continue to maintain the fraud hotline, and our staff is taking all the necessary training to maintain their professional designations. The way we look, I'm a CPA, Desmond's a CPA, Fulak's a CPA, and Jay's a CPA. And they also have masters, some have master's degrees. Don is a certified internal auditor. The demographics, one Hispanic, one Black Jamaican, one Asian, and one female, and 2 Caucasians. And we are fully staffed as of now. That's what we do.
All right, well, simple, straight to the point, huh?
Contrary to popular belief, we are here to help you. People don't like seeing internal auditors. They don't like seeing external auditors, but.
All right, well, thank you.
Good, you're welcome.
Thank you. Let's open up the floor to see if there's any statements or any questions. I'll start with Council President Surgeon.
Thank you so very much. You guys do a lot of audit with
Yeah.
just, you know, the staff you have. When was the last time the baseball stadium,
What's that?
the baseball stadium you've contracted here?
What?
When was the last time you did that audit?
We looked at it maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe 2 years. How long? The stadium's been there, what, almost 5 years now? Yeah. I was there for the groundbreaking, and Mike Looney and I went to the trailer every month. And Mike was sort of running the project. And I asked him before we even broke ground, I said, you know, it'd be a good idea to have an auditor go with you and look at all the invoices and everything you do. It'll give us a lot of credibility for the city for looking over that contractor. So I was heavily involved in the construction of the stadium.
So now that
And
you're up
I know what that stadium cost us. It didn't cost us $55 million like we were told. It was more like $105 million at the end of the day. But there's some clauses in there. We get a piece of revenue for certain things. They pay Dunkin' Donuts, I think, for the naming rights. Dunkin' Donuts pays us for the name, or us for the naming rights. I think it's $500,000 a year, something like that. So we look at that. There's some clauses in there when they're hiring people that they're required to hire so many Hartford residents. That's really, really hard to enforce over there. They do. Last time I looked at it, they weren't in compliance, but there was a lot of reasons of why that was happening. So I can put it on the plan for next year. Probably will. I can put it on our audit plan for the next fiscal year.
So that was my question. You know, annually, how do you decide the 20, you know, that
Right.
you're going to do?
I have in our audit software, and I have a spreadsheet with all, I'll call them the auditable areas that we've built up over the years. So if you take this, start with the city, and we'll have all the departments. When we go in and do an audit, we don't bite off the whole department, like development services. We just won't audit the whole thing. We'll break it down in pieces. Finance is broken down into pieces. For example, tax. And then we make tax 3 audits: property, automobile, and real estate. And we do the same thing for assessor. So we break them up so they're manageable. And what we do is we look at what is the risk exposure. Obviously, the tax department has, I don't even know what the number is now, 280 million into the general fund. So that's a very, that's I'll call it a class. We rank them 1, 2s, and 3s. 1 being the highest exposure. So everything in tax and assessor would be number 1s. And we evaluate them constantly. We're constantly looking at that. Do we have a change in management? Do we have this? Do we have that? Are we still doing it that way? Have they implemented the controls we said in the past? And we'll adjust those numbers, 1, 2s, and 3s. with our available staff, we try to hit the ones every no more than 3 years, 2 to 3 years. The twos, maybe 3 to 5, and the threes, 5 to 7. It depends. The more auditors I have, the more audits we do. I think we're pretty comfortable the way we're staffed now. And there's really only two there's only there's only 2 internal audit departments in the state of Connecticut for 169 municipalities. Hartford and Waterbury.
All right, so you mentioned on your highlights that one of the highlights, or it will be to continue following up with the administration on recommendations that you've made
Yeah.
on your reports. I'm curious to what happens when you do follow up. You know, historically, at least in the last couple of years, or including up until now, I know that I think since January, I think I've seen 2 reports if I'm not mistaken. I seen one recently. I think there was another one, but it could be December. But how does that follow up look like?
There's 2 ways we do it. We have a control document that has all our recommendations and the due dates. So say Leanne says, okay, we'll establish that formal written procedure for that task by January 2024. What we do is, for every audit we do, we will take the prior audit report and follow up on all those recommendations during the current audit if we didn't follow up on them before. But I have all 5 of us assigned different areas of the city to follow up in between audits, downtime. You always have something to do, and they'll take that audit report and they'll contact the department head, and we'll physically go over there, talk to them. If it was a really critical control weakness, we may do a little testing to make sure that they actually implemented the control, not giving a slip service. But in the past, I'd say 2019 and prior, we did not perform that function. M&B performed that function. I never knew why that happened, and when I took over the audit department, I changed it, and we actually do the follow-up because it was not effective. We had hundreds and hundreds going back 5, 6, 7, 8 years that were never followed up.
So it is possible that even under the current system, you said that sometimes at least you want to audit any particular division or department at least minimum 3 years.
Right.
Some, depending on the ranking, 1, 2, 3, it could be
Right.
5 years. So it is possible that some of these follow-up recommendations don't even happen until after you do the follow-up audit, which could be 3, 4 years down the road. That is possible, right? Because you said that you're going to follow
not
up.
anymore. Because when that thing comes due, we'll follow up within 2 or 3 months of the due date.
And what happens if the recommendation has not been accepted or nothing has changed? Does your department have any enforcement authority, or does it just...
That's been an issue for a long time. And I'm actually going to have that conversation tomorrow with the mayor. I came out of corporate. I worked for Cigna for 22 years. And what we did at Cigna, we put that in all the, I'll call them department heads, VPs, AVPs. We put it in their bonus plan. So 20% of their bonus is based on how their unit does or their division. 40% is based on this. 10% is compliance with internal audit. So if we went into the operation and they did not implement what we recommended and they agreed to do, that could impact their bonus. We don't have that here. We have and what's been done is when people have not implemented our recommendations, if it's during an audit, we'll put it in the audit report. If it's a really serious one, we'll issue a memo with distribution on it. But that's an issue. What do you do to how do you really enforce a department head to do something that internal audit says to do?
All right. Thank you. Councilman Gale.
So,
Yeah, thank you, and good evening. I one question for you regarding, as you mentioned, there's only one of the municipalities that has an internal audit commission, but all of the municipalities are required to do an annual audit, and the city has an outside firm that comes in once a year and does a massive audit.
yeah, their threshold for materiality from the balance sheet, and I'll call it our operations, let's say the income statement for the city. Their threshold is about $5 million materiality.
So
So
below
if
that,
you had a-
they're not paying attention.
If you're, exactly.
Okay,
So,
well, that's what I
let's
was
say
gonna- that's
they're
what I was
looking
gonna
at,
ask you.
they're at journal entries, manual journal entries that may come out of finance to adjust an account. How much? 1 million.
Yeah, well,
Is
that-
their threshold? Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, what
Right.
the difference is between because we get the
They-
book, it's a pretty substantial book.
They do a complete financial audit of the balance sheet of the accounts and the funds. We get into all the operations. We'll go out and, for example, the parking authority, we'll look at the revenue and all the controls of collecting all the money for the meters and all that. They'll never look at that. They'll never look at those operational. They really don't do operational audits. They're doing complete financial audits to render an opinion on our financial statements.
So one other question about that annual audit that's done. In the years that you've been here, has there ever been anything in that annual audit that surprised you?
Not recently. If you go back 5, 10 years, we would have management comments. They'll issue a management letter. So if they have a concern or a major internal control weakness, they may highlight that and put that in their management letter. Leanne could, and I think the last few audits, we have clean management letters, right? And that's because of all your hard work. So, yeah, we have not, and since we've been under the MARB, there's been a lot of scrutiny too. So, I can say from an internal standpoint, internal audit standpoint, 10 years ago, 5 years ago to today, and even the shortages we do have in some of our operations with vacancies and staff cuts over the years, our systems of internal controls and documentation of procedures and processes has really, really improved. Especially in a few departments, and one of them I think is finance. I think they've come a really long way now. Maybe it's because of the internal audits we've done over the years. They've implemented
Everybody's been
our
paying attention.
recommendations. Now we're running out of recommendations.
Well, that's a good thing. Thank you.
So,
Right? Okay, no questions on my left side, no more questions on my right side, so I think we're done with this particular department. So thank you, Chief Auditor Trujillo, for your time and your presentation and answering all of our questions. We're gonna take a 3 to 5 minute break to transition to the Department of Children's, Families, and Youth.
and
Thank you.
If, and the council, I haven't to give you some assurance or whatever. You can do this, obviously you can do the same thing if you want, and I've gotten requests from council people before to look at different things, so. I'm in the
At least
process
from-
of doing the audit
From my
plan.
end, we're gonna get back to you on that question. Let's give it some thought. After we're done with the budget presentations, we'll probably come up with some ideas.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Now we have the Department of Family, Children, and Youth and Recreation on the table. So we have Director Christina Baldwin. Please introduce the leadership at the table, and then the floor is yours. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Should I start over or no? Am I good to go? Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Thanks, Corey. Getting and keeping young people on safe and productive paths is a core part of the city's mission. So our departmental organizational chart looks as follows, and this is for full-time positions that are funded under the general fund. So in our administration, we have 1 director position, 1 assistant to the director, 1 executive assistant, and 1 principal admin assistant. In our early learning division, we have 1 assistant director. In youth services, we have 1 administrative analyst, 1 assistant director, 1 general clerk, 1 senior admin assistant. And in recreation and family services, we have 1 deputy director and 4 community recreation counselors. So we have a total of 14 general fund positions. We also have 42 grant-funded positions currently, which is a total of 56 positions. So some highlights over this past year. So we have 2,423 disengaged and disconnected youth ages 16 to 14 that were served through our Youth Service Corps, earning almost $7 million and completing a total of 1,783 service learning projects since July of 2016. 804 youth have been served in the Summer Youth Employment and Learning Program. 345 youth have been served in our prevention, crisis intervention, and reentry programs as part of our Youth Justice Initiative, with grants going to Compass, Peace Builders, and Our Piece of the Pie. 102 youth have been served by the Juvenile Review Board as a means of diverting juvenile offenders from a formal justice system through a balanced and restorative justice approach. 65 youth have served as part of our Rapid Response Program, and that is an immediate and coordinated response by our Youth Violence Prevention and Intervention Work Group that addresses the unmet needs of youth ages 12 to 24 who are involved in violence, and to reduce repeat offenses and retaliation. So we have served 80 truant and habitually truant students that have been referred out to community supports, and 9,721 youth have been served this year through our ARPA-funded Unity grants, and that we gave out for those grants this current year $1.5 million in awarded funding. In our early learning division, we have had 91,641 meals that have been served to children, 1,655 infant, toddlers, and preschool slots. That's our total number of slots that we have in our center-based classrooms. 50 toddler and preschool slots are at our 2 city-designated early learning centers. Those are Highland Park and Metzner Center. 81 center-based classrooms and family groups have participated in our Hartford Talks program. We have conducted 55 coaching sessions with family child care providers that have participated in Hartford Talks. 1,120 total children and 972 total adults have enrolled in the Sparkler app to support parents and caregivers with child developmental milestones. 156 family child care providers. We have a total of that in our staffed family child care network, which are in-home child care providers. 36 providers have been awarded child daycare funding for infants and toddlers this year. We've hosted 25 professional learning communities for administrators and instructional leaders that have been focused on data-driven decision-making, business leadership, and pedagogical development. 140 individualized coaching visits have occurred for preschool educators, and we have provided 700 infants and toddlers with free diapers and formula this past year. In our recreation division, some of our highlights include we have a 50% increase in hours of operations as of this year through expanding from 8 to 12 hours in our two largest centers, Arroyo and Parker. We work with over 30 community groups and organizations to provide space for community events, programs, and activities in our centers. We have had 1,010 new families and individuals registered online through our MyRec system. We have hired 20 new recreation assistants. We have hired 1 additional community recreation counselor. We have 215 individuals on average that have attended block parties this year. 250 individuals on average have attended our holiday events. 40 children have attended our summer basketball camp, that's the daily average. 80 children participated in our summer camp program this past summer. We had 39,771 total visits to our pools at our 4 locations this past summer. And 51 youth participated in our inaugural relaunch of the Hartford Swim Team League. Some of our strategic initiatives include the following. In early learning, we ensure holistic learning and development of children with a multi-generation approach and empower parents and caregivers to advise, advocate, and lead solutions for their families, their peers, and the city with a focus on building and accelerating early literacy. In youth services, we collaborate with system leaders and partners and act as a thought, implementation, and action partner to improve life course outcomes for Hartford youth with a focus on engagement, employment, and justice. And in recreation and family services, we have an understanding of the importance of the family unit. Our recreation and family services division promotes and expands exploration, skill building, and leadership opportunities throughout the city so that recreation is accessible to all residents with a focus on adolescent children, girls, and teens. So looking at our budget on this page, we can see in our general fund, we have a 33.3% decrease going from what was adopted in FY24 to what is being recommended in FY25. For our grants, we have a 39% increase that we are expecting as a change from 24 adopted to 25 recommended. And so our total change for the department percentage-wise is at 17.8%. So the 33.3% decrease in our general fund is attributed to the transfer of one of our 3 divisions, our recreation division from the department into the new sports and recreation department, effective in FY25. And majority of the increase for our grant funding is in our ELC grant funding for our child daycare slots to serve infant and toddlers, and that accounts for a significant portion of the projected increase in the grant spending. So then we're going to move on to some highlights over this past year of our grants activity. So we've had $3.7 million that was secured from Connecticut Children's to support our North Hartford Ascend pipeline. $1.4 million has been secured from the U.S. Department of Justice through their Edward Byrne Memorial Discretionary Grant. $21 million has been secured from the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood for our school readiness and child daycare grant contracts. $120,000 has been secured to build a comprehensive network of our licensed daycare and our kith and kin providers through our homegrown initiative. $254,089 was secured from the Connecticut Department of Children and Families to continue with our Juvenile Review Board program. $640,000 was secured from the State of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development for the expansion of our Hartford Youth Service Corps program. $319,304 was secured from United Way in partnership with the Connecticut OEC to develop and support our licensed family child care providers in Region 2. And $25,000 was secured from our local early childhood collaborative and our Connecticut Network for Children and Youth grants to develop and support a Parent Ambassadors Initiative to lead and advocate for early learning and care. And finally, $183,201 was secured from the Connecticut Department of Children and Families for our Youth Service Bureau to support youth employment, youth justice, and capacity building of our service providers. Now we'll move on to the next slide, which shows you some budget highlights and areas of focus that we'd like to share with you today. So just recently, we received the National Leagues of City recognition for excellence in early childhood as one of only 4 cities nationwide. We also hosted our 3rd annual Hello Neighbor event at Highland Early Learning Center with Daniel Tiger visiting our Early Learning Center in the community. And it highlighted our Highlands mural project, which was done by a local artist, in Hartford Talks. This year we received the Sparkler Grant, which promotes the Sparkler app in our Early Learning Network and our Staff Family Childcare Network, with parent champions hosting Sparkler activities. 150 families attended our first ever Spark and Glow event at City Hall, which promoted the Sparkler learning. And a huge thanks to our council president, Surgeon, who was our honored guest reader at that event. We had 600 early learning educators that attended our first ever early childhood mental health and trauma professional day event that we held at the Bushnell this year. We also, in our early learning division, held 8 parent cabinet meetings with 45 families participating in 10 early learning parent activities, from mindfulness to yoga to paint nights and music and movement that we offer right here in City Hall. We've had 2 early learning staff members that are trained as coaches for the pyramid model to promote and support strategies for emotional and social support at our child care centers. 29 early learning center providers started their NAFFC accreditation. We have recruited 12 new licensed daycare providers. 55 providers participated in our early learning development standards training. 45 record keeping and leadership trainings were provided to licensed family daycare providers by our department. 20 licensed daycare providers attended the Science for Young Children training offered through our department. 125 licensed daycare providers attended our prevention of shaken baby syndrome training that was offered through our department, and 25 licensed daycare providers attended our music and movement training that was offered through our department. Budget highlights in our youth services area focus. This past year, we reintroduced our Rock Your Future Mayor's Youth Employment and Empowerment Day in the spring of 2023 to bolster work readiness and career exploration with opportunities for Hartford youth. In partnership with Capital Workforce Partners, Hartford Public Schools, UConn, and the Hartford Youth Advisory Board, as well as community partners. That event will be coming up again this year, next month in June. This year, we also provided an additional $300,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funding to support our Summer Youth Employment and Learning Program, which enabled 804 Hartford youth to obtain summer jobs. We conducted a strategic assessment of our Hartford Opportunity Youth Collaborative to restructure and revamp the work post-pandemic in partnership with Capital Workforce Partners and Nancy Martin Consulting through a $72,000 grant that we received from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. We developed the Youth Offender Care Coordination Initiative through partnerships with the Connecticut the Court Support Services Division, Compass, Peace Builders, ROCA, OPP, SCRIP, and the Center for Children's Advocacy to engage and address our highest need youth. We created the WISH initiative. WISH stands for Wraparound Youth Supports for Homelessness. as one of 5 pilot sites in the state to identify and support and coordinate the needs of homeless and unstably housed youth ages 13 to 17 in Hartford, in partnership with the Center for Children's Advocacy and Journey Home and a network of our partner CBOs. We launched the Subsidized Childcare Initiative with ROCA to support young mothers who would not otherwise have access to quality, affordable care. That program is to support young mothers that are in often perilous situations that might involve trafficking or gang relation. We completed our 3rd and final round of our Understanding the Needs in Today's Youth, our Unity Grant program, funded through the American Rescue Plan to support youth engagement programs. And here we provided our 3-year overview of that program since we are in the final year. We wanted to give you a recap. So in the first year, fiscal year 22, we gave out awards in the amounts of $1.4 million with over 11,000 youth participants. Programs that were funded included community-based programs, employment work-based programs, and school-based programs, and there were 68 awarded providers. In the second year, FY23, the total amount that we awarded was just about $1.9 million, with about 9,000 youth participants being served in programs that were community-based, employment and work-based, school-based, and sports and recreation, 63 awarded providers that year. And finally, in our 3rd and final year, which is this year, the total amount that we awarded was $1.5 million with 9,700 youth participants being served. And the types of programs that we funded this year include mentoring and tutoring, employment and workforce development, recreation and leisure, literacy, performing arts, youth sports, civic engagement and advocacy, STEM, computer literacy, visual arts, and environmental stewardship. And we gave out 35 awards this year. And then if we go to the next slide, sorry. So we also gave out multi-year awards through our American Rescue Plan dollars, and here's a summary of those, as those end this year as well. So we gave the Boys and Girls Clubs of Hartford funding to support their club programming and operations at their Northwest Boys and Girls Club. That was $1.5 million over 3 years. We gave Our Piece of the Pie funding for their Youth Service Corps expansion program. That was $1.5 million over 3 years. We supported ROCA Hartford for their Young Mothers program in the amount of $1 million over 3 years. We supported Active City for the citywide Youth Sports Collaborative Initiative, and that was $900,000 over the 3 years. And we supported the Hartford Data Collaborative to support the data and outcome measures for all of our citywide youth initiatives, and that was $75,000 over 3 years. So with that being said, we are going to switch over to the second presentation that we have prepared for you. So as Corey is pulling that up, as you all are aware, this body allocated for us for this current fiscal year about $1.3 million to conduct a recreation expansion programming in the city. Although we are just 6 months into that, or we were 6 months into that when our department, when the switchover for our department began, we still wanted to share with you the work that we've done with those dollars and to highlight all of the incredible work that the staff has been doing. So a very brief overview of that. In March of 2023, our department submitted a proposal to redesign, a proposed redesign and budget analysis for extended recreation operations for our Hartford recreation centers. And in 2024, the $1.3 million budget was adopted to support our plan for extending recreation through a new family and community center model. So the purpose of that model was envisioning a better future to transform our transforming Hartford family and community centers into spaces for intergenerational engagement. The project goals including improved access, so to increase the hours, days, and weeks of our operational use to maximize the recreation spaces in our community centers, to expand offerings, to create a diverse and robust array of engagement services, programs, and activities for the community and throughout our park system, and to connect generations, to expand opportunities to serve the entire life cycle of Hartford residents, from infants and seniors and everyone in between. So the next slide shows what our proposed model was for that. And so it incorporated providing enhanced and comprehensive programs and services to support our intergenerational community engagement through spaces, and that included early learning programs, recreation centers, drop-in care programs, and community partnerships. So our goal was to create a hospitable environment at our centers, as it's paramount, and it ensures that all members of our community feel valued, included, encouraging participation, and fostering a sense of belonging. So what was our plan intended to look like? The plan that we had proposed expanded our hours of operation for general use at our Parker and Arroyo centers from 8 to 16 hours a day, to expand our Metzner and Willie Ware recreation operating hours from 4 to 12 hours a day, to extend our weekend recreational hours at all of our recreational sites, to expand our aquatic hours and programs for community use, the reconstruction of our Blue Hills Recreation Center, to pilot the North Hartford Ascend Pipeline Resource Navigator in Parker, and to determine the success and feasibility of replicating that model in Arroyo, and to create safe zones for teen programming. Excuse me. So our plan for expansion was initially scheduled to unfold over a 2.5-year timeline through a phased-in approach, with the goal of final completion being at the end of 2025. Despite structural changes to our department, we have achieved significant progress 6 months into this plan. This ensured that our commitment to the expansion remained on track, laying a firm foundation for ongoing implementation and success. And so I'm actually just gonna slide through these next ones, because these next 3 slides explained how we were phasing out this phase 1 of the plan, which is just a more in-depth overview of what I just explained. So we will go to the results of the creating impact. So we are proud to have achieved significant progress in the first phase of the project, delivering results and creating significant positive impact in the community. So what does our impact look like? What were we able to do these 6 months? So in human resources and staffing, we worked very, very closely with the support of the HR team day in and day out. So we identified and began filling vacant positions to enhance our service delivery. As I mentioned earlier, we're able to hire 20 new recreation assistants and 1 new community rec counselor. So we worked to introduce new full-time roles to expand program offerings. We've worked with human resources to refine job qualifications to attract a broader pool of candidates. That includes, we had our residency requirements lifted for our recreation assistants, and we were also able to lower the age for our lifeguards. We implemented staffing policies to ensure staff safety and well-being. We developed a comprehensive procedures manual for improved operational efficacy and efficiency. We advocated for increased lifeguard salaries through comprehensive municipal comparative analysis and a business case that we presented both to the previous and current administration. And we increased our professional development opportunities. So we had 27 professional development opportunities that were participated in by our DFCYR staff so far this year. Our facilities. So what have we done in our facilities? We commissioned a cursory facility history and review status review done by our Office of Performance Management. We initiated early pool construction for timely availability, so we worked very closely with Department of Public Works to start on pool construction immediately after the pools closed last summer. We undertook major center cleanouts for enhanced functionality of our recreation centers, and we introduced the mandatory MyRec scanning system for streamlined operations. That's new, so now all residents must register with MyRec to use our centers. Under operations and finance, so we expanded our recreation center hours of operation by 50%. We offered programs during the school vacation periods this year, where previously we had been closed with extended hours. We enhanced our MyRec system functionality and presentation. We also secured a $100,000 state grant for youth programming at Parker Memorial Community Center, which we are currently in the middle of implementing. That's actually a 2-year grant, so that will be going on for next year as well. And then we leveraged additional funding for enhancement to all of our centers. So in our centers, we'll be adding touchless water fountains and industrialized sanitizing and disinfecting cabinets. And that will be at all of our centers. Our impact on communication and collaboration. So we launched our new youth activities website page that is updated seasonally. That is on our department's website. We updated our resource map for our families. We formalized partnerships with Hartford Public Schools for better communication and more efficient communication amongst our schools and our families. And we strengthened programs through collaborations with Public Works and our Hartford Public Schools. Programming and equipment. So we introduced the new relaunch of our swim team league. As I mentioned before, we had 51 participants in that this year. We increased our scheduling for lifeguard pre-testing under the oversight of John, who's sitting here, our aquatic supervisor. We hosted the inaugural Summer Activities Resource Fair in partnership with Hartford Athletic. And we actually just hosted the second annual Summer Activities Resource Fair in partnership with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We launched the girls' volleyball program, and we have supplies and equipment pricing estimates that have been secured. So our centers will be receiving new aquatics equipment, weight and fitness equipment, new pool tables, new audio-visual technology, and e-gaming equipment. Thank you. Thank you, Corey. So really quickly, we don't have to go back to the other slide, but I just wanted to mention very quickly that in terms of residency for our staff, we have 67% of our staff are City of Hartford residents and 33% are non-City of Hartford residents. Our race and ethnic makeup, so 39% are Hispanic, 42% are African American or Black, 11% are Caucasian or white, 2% are Asian, and 7% are other. And we have 67% that are female and 33% that are male. And if it is all right with you, I would just like to give like a formal thanks to our DFCYR staff, if I can just have a moment to do so. Thank you. Okay, so as our final publicly facing meeting as the full Department of Families, Children, Youth, and Recreation, I'd like to take a moment to thank the incredible team, some of whom are here tonight, that I have had the honor to lead over the past year. To our recreation team, the work, time, and commitment that you put into serving our residents each and every day is admirable. You are doing work that most people probably couldn't and wouldn't do. You work long hours, performing duties that are often both thankless and unnoticed, but please know that I notice you, recognize you, and respect you. From your leader, O. Hemming, who consistently works 12-hour days to ensure our centers and recreation programs are safe and welcoming to all of our community, to your team of full-time staff, Troy, Raj, and Daria, who grew up in our centers and have devoted their professional careers to continuing to serve them. From our lifeguards, who collectively have over 350 years of lifeguarding experience working in City of Hartford pools, led by our aquatic supervisor, John, who's here. To Anthony, who single-handedly updates MyRec regularly on behalf of the department. To Sheila, who is also in the room, who continued to work and check in with me daily, even after the devastating shooting accident of her son a few months back. To Brooklyn, who saw me and came up to me one day in a sandwich shop just to tell me how much she loves being a part of the team and expressed how much she loves her work. To our beloved Rufus, who passed away this past year and came out of retirement to work for DFCYR, not only performing recreational duties, but also to drive members of our youth service corps during all of the snowstorms to shovel driveways of our senior residents. And to all of our recreation team, all 150 of you, Always remember this. You are not only making a difference in the lives of all Hartford youth, you are the difference. It has been my extreme honor to lead this department, and on behalf of the other two divisions of your DFCYR family, Youth Services and Early Learning, we say thank you. I have no doubt that you will continue to do great things in your new department. Our partnership has not ended, but will just grow and evolve like we always have. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm supposed to follow up on that, so let's, so thank you, Director Baldwin, for your comprehensive and very detailed presentation of the three divisions that you led over the course of this year. I'd like to open up the floor for my council colleagues to ask any questions or make any statements at this point. Councilwoman Bilodeau.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to you for doing such a great job leading this department, and to all of your staff for your service to the city. This is a critical department serving youth and families, and it's so important for us to have strong leadership and good staff. So thank you. I particularly have a question about areas in my neighborhood. A question that always surrounds our NRZ and community members is Highland Park building, and I know there's an early learning center in that building, but is there any opportunity or thought of expanding services or opening it up for other opportunities?
Thank you, Councilwoman. Yes, I can actually probably defer to some members of your council to answer that. But there has been a feasibility plan that has been done, and so that has been in partnership with our capital improvement projects department, as well as my department, and has leadership from the NRZ in that area. And of course, some council members have taken the lead in doing that. So I know that there has been conversation around expanding Highland Park, the Early Learning Center, into a very comprehensive community center. Those conversations are ongoing, but again, some of your council members are leading that effort. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll ask a couple of questions then. Let's, on the budget, there is a particular line that caught my attention. Under the early learning, row 507, there is other tech and professional services. So on that one, can you elaborate a little bit on that increase from 25,000 last year to 128,000? Even though this year, for the first 6 months, only about $8,000 were spent. Can you elaborate on what that money will be used for?
Yes. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Can you repeat the line number again? Sorry,
507.
Under early learning. Okay. Yes. So, so that line item, we have our nursing contract. In custodial, I'm sorry, in that line item, our janitorial and custodial line item for our early learning centers. So that was currently being supported through contingency funds through the city, and so we submitted a business case to have that be added into our budget, because that is a requirement for our early learning centers.
Thank you. So staying in the early learning, how are the available slots, not just on the two centers or not just on Highland and just in general, including the early learning centers and some of the other ones that are contracted with, private nonprofits and contractors? How are those seats looking like now? Because I know last year there was a little bit of concern about so many seats available and people were not taking advantage of those. Since last year. How has that progressed?
Yes, so we are still very actively working on filling those slots. So as you may be aware, we launched our early learning marketing campaign this year with $250,000 from ARPA funding allocated to that. So that has been going on citywide for the past few months. So currently for our child daycare slots, so those are infant and toddler slots, the total number of slots that we have allocated citywide are 531. The number of slots that we have filled are 485. And so slots remaining unfilled are 66. For our school readiness slots, which are the preschool slots, total citywide, we have allocated 1,113 slots. 877 of those are filled, so 236 of those slots are currently vacant.
How are the providers partnering with your department? I know you can create the marketing piece, you know, but then providers, they have their own marketing money, they have their own structure. How are they accepting the partnership? How are they partnering in this sense for marketing of these seats?
Yes, so we work, and we actually develop the entire marketing campaign in partnership with those providers. Our website that we have launched, hartfordearlylearning.com, lists every provider. There's a link to each and every individual provider's own website, so a parent can go onto our website and link to any of our other centers throughout the city. Additionally, we are in the process of hiring a service navigator. That would be a brand new position for our department, whereby we would be the centralized location, develop like a universal waiting list for the programs, and that service navigator, if I were to call in looking for childcare for my child, I could let them know exactly what I needed, how old my child was, the area of the city that I live or where I require the childcare, and our service navigator on staff will help connect them to the best childcare of our network that meets their needs.
And lastly, this is more of a statement more than a question, unless you'd like to comment on these. Last year, one of the things that really caught my attention and that got me into, you know, obviously educating myself a little bit more about your department was that 40% that was put on the budget last year on the KPIs for school readiness, for early childhood in math, in different subjects. And that 40% really got my attention, and I was like, okay, how is this 40? Why are we lowballing this, right? I'm glad to see that now we have 50s and 60%, 55% in those same line items, those same KPIs. Obviously, we should still keep striving for more, as always, right? We should be in that 80, 90%, even 100, right? But in the real world, I understand the different challenges, but I'm happy to see that the estimated percentage on those KPIs have increased to 50, 55, and 60% in some cases, as opposed to the 40 that I saw last year. So I'm happy to see that, but let's keep working to keep increasing that, because it is the root of many of our problems in our society. You know, early childhood, the more successful we are at that age, even from birth, the better we're gonna see, you know, our young people grow and stay on pace with whether it's on their math literacy grade level. But I think that's the root of many of our issues in society. So let's keep working on increasing that percentage and keep working hard as you have been. So thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. We couldn't agree more. And actually, I'll just use it as a quick plug to say, because we didn't mention in our presentation, but we are migrating over our data system to PowerSchool, which is huge for us. So a huge thanks to Shilene Lopez, because she's been working on this for at least a year. So now we will be able to link. So PowerSchool is the data management system that Hartford Public School uses. So now we'll actually be able to link and start to track data to see how school ready our earliest learners are and how that translates into actual success when they get to school.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm going to ask you this question. Was the agreement or the MOU that was created between you and Hartford Public Schools, was it a fully two-way street kind of communication?
So we're still working on the development of the MOU.
Okay, so I encourage you and the superintendent to sit down and come up with a way that it could be a two-way communication. I have stressed my point in previous times that this is not just you providing information to the school system, but
Absolutely.
the school system should also provide information back to you, the early childhood centers, so that way you can measure the effectiveness of the work that you've done. So
Absolutely.
I
yes.
encourage for the MOU to include language that it will create that two-way street kind of communication.
Definitely.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yep, that is the purpose. Thank you.
Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions, if I may. In your budget highlights, you talk about the Unity grant program, and I guess this was funded through ARPA. And I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding. It looks as though, in this particular case, the city was receiving funding from the federal government, and then through your department was identifying specific providers that could fill different niches and getting the money into their hands. So am I correct that, like in the last year, 23, 24, you indicate a little over 1.5 million was distributed, and there were 35 different providers who received that money? Is that the idea?
Yes, that's correct, through a competitive RFP process.
Just, I mean, you're not going to know all 35, but just give me a sampling of who are these various, are these all entities that were involved in the city of Hartford to begin with, for the most part?
Yes, so yes, so for the most part, the requirements of those providers are that they have to serve Hartford youth. Again, they are allowed to apply through a competitive RFP process. They are 501c3 nonprofits that have a youth, youth programming approach. So the city of Hartford has actually hundreds of youth-serving providers in the city.
Well, I see in the year before, there were 63 providers.
Correct.
Then
So
it
you're
dropped to
asking in the
35,
difference in the
but-
change? Yes, so that difference accounts for the first 2 years. We had a funding, so we had 3 different funding thresholds. The first 2 years, we had a funding threshold that was $5,000 or below. So if someone, let's say, for example, wanted to do a one-time double Dutch program and they only needed a few $1,000s, they could apply for that. This final year, that changed, and we only funded higher level asks amounts. Part of that, a big part of the reasoning was for that, is because through our department, since you're working with children and youth, the insurance requirements are very, very high. So if there's not like a really well-established nonprofit organization that's serving a cost for them to get insurance to run a very small program was often onerous. So we just made those funding requirements higher, and we funded less organizations. But we did have a strong sort of like partnership encouragement. So some of those organizations partnered with smaller organizations to run their programs.
Thank you. I want to ask you about one other program that you highlighted, the WISH initiative. I'm wondering if you can just speak about that a little bit more detail. What's the program? Where is it housed? Who's the providers?
Sure.
Who are who's doing the actual providing of services, and what are they providing?
Thank you, Councilman, for asking that question. This initiative actually birthed through 2 young people that entered into our department, our office right upstairs over the years. The first one was a gentleman who I had met doing a site visit for one of our youth-serving providers. And he took me up on my offer to come visit me anytime up at City Hall. And when I was sitting talking with him, he explained to me that he had nowhere to stay, that he was riding the city bus all day until it stopped running at night, and he would end up staying, when the city bus stopped running, it would drop him off at the Dunkin' Donuts out in East Hartford. And the manager there was very kind to him and allowed him to stay there all night until the city bus started running again. So my team and I sat with him over the course of probably a week in our office, helping to get him connected to services, and it required just sort of like a lot of grassroots reaching out to our community and reaching out to our our partners that we work with to try to get him on the path that he needs to be. Fast forward to this past year, I had a colleague bring another young man into my office to sit down and talk with me and told me that he had been kicked out of his home. He had nowhere to stay, but he really wanted to go to school, and he didn't know if he was allowed to go to school because he didn't have a place to live. So with that being said, I reached out to our partners at Center for Children's Advocacy and connected him with their free legal services, who got him enrolled in school, playing football, and that young gentleman is now actually our youth homeless ambassador for the WISH initiative. So because of these two items, I had conversations with Center for Children's Advocacy and Journey Home and discovered that there was a real lack of understanding in Hartford, but not only in Hartford, in other major cities around the state as well, where we actually have no idea the number of young children that are between the ages of 13 and 17 that are either homeless or unstably housed, that are couch surfing or staying with friends, and that also may not be connected to DCF. And so the young gentleman who's our youth homeless ambassador said to me, "Miss, there are a lot of us out here, and so we need to do something about it." And the timing just so happened that the Center for Children's Advocacy and Journey Home is launching these pilot care coordination projects. And so I said that this is something that we're going to do. So, you know, we came up with the name WISH for Hartford's care coordination for youth homeless. And again, that stands for Wraparound Youth Supports for Homelessness. And essentially what it is that we are turning our community centers into what we're calling WISH centers, as well as our offices here at City Hall. So essentially what that means is that there'll be a sign there that says it's a WISH center. If a young person doesn't have a place to live, they can come in, they can talk with our staff in our centers, who will then reach out to our staff here at City Hall, who that is the staff that is sort of like the navigation support, who will then go out and do the intake and connect with our community of partners to get them connected to where they need to be. Additionally, we'll be holding regular meetings with our community of partners to do like a case review to help to determine what organizations can best support the needs in their individual, whatever it is that their individual needs are. So essentially what the WISH initiative is a care coordination model that we currently don't have in the city, and that is apparently very, very much needed.
Sounds fascinating, and sounds like it's something that's just getting underway.
It is, yes.
Have you actually been serving any clients at this point? Or
So we have, yes, I'm sorry. So we have been doing it informally, but because we are still in the build-out phase and there's a lot that we have to, well, I won't say a lot, but at this point there are just a few more things that we have to work out in terms of proper referral for young people. So there is a law that refers to homeless youth where, as long as the agency like us makes a good faith effort to try to get informed consent from the parent, if we are unable to get that, we're still able to serve the youth. So we are in the process now of developing that informed consent in partnership with Journey Home and Center for Children's Advocacy, as well as creating a referral form that is HIPAA compliant, that we can receive sensitive information and pass it on to our community partners.
Well, good luck with all that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Madam Director and team. I have a couple questions about the split off of rec, just budget questions. You said that the decline in DCFY without the R, it was a third, and that was strictly what the rec department or the rec division had been, right? Am I getting that right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so the rec division then, this is sort of hard because there was no last year for the rec division, so it's hard, the rec department.
Correct.
So then, in essence, if they went from that third, which was $1,700,000, to what they have in the budget now, which is $2,200,000, right? That's like a straight increase in funding to sports and rec.
Correct.
And Was the decrease to DCFY, like, was it strictly, let me put it this way, taking away sports and rec, what happened to the remaining DCFY budget? Did it get increased? Did it stay flat? Did it go down? In terms of, not in terms of grants, but in terms of what the city puts in.
In
Do you
terms
follow
of
me?
the general fund dollars?
Yes.
So our budget did go down. The new DFCY budget did decrease because the budget is so intertwined. So it's not just like this piece goes off, right? Like the budget, removing a piece affects the budget as a whole and has an impact on the other two divisions. So we worked very closely with Corey and the finance team to make sure that we siphoned that out in a way that wouldn't cause too much, undue damage, for lack of better word, to the other two departments. But to the other two divisions, but to answer your question, yes, our budget did decrease.
Do you know by how much? Because that's a little, I'm struggling to tease that out of these lines.
1,902,000.
Sorry, say that again.
1.9 million.
Yeah,
Mhm.
$1.9 million.
1.9 million.
The
So-
decrease from last year's, so essentially, you had $2.7 million as just recreation, as a function of DFCYR. DFCY is keeping approximately $871,000. Sports and recreation is getting approximately $1.9 million of that previous budget. That's not to say they aren't getting more money elsewhere. From DFCY, 1.9 million is moving over.
Okay, I think I understand. Director Baldwin, you just talked about the intertwining. Like, what are things that, if anything, that has to be duplicated, let us say, now that we're talking about separate departments, in terms of staff or services or anything like that?
Yes, so we will, in terms of duplication, so will be duplicate staff that's needed in the centers. So the centers are comprehensive, not just for recreation services, but for a lot of community-based services. A lot of services, programs, and activities that my department is also charged under state mandate to run and to continue that happen out of the centers. So there will be duplication with some of the full-time staff, possibly some part-timers are cooks that have to cook for the early learning centers, will need to be stationed out of our centers to do so. So all of those things are, budgetarily what's impacted. Programmatically and logistically, how we do that, we've been working very closely with the new acting director to work out sort of all of those logistics. But essentially, there's inevitable duplication because the responsibilities that I had our current rec staff do, which I was able to have do by virtue of them being my staff under my current department, I will not be able to utilize them for moving forward because they will be under the oversight of a different department and a different director.
Slightly different topic. The early childhood educators that you talked about, I know you and I have had this conversation that it's like all of the city, like competition, we're losing them to other places.
Correct.
Because of, that's mostly because of wages?
I would say that that's probably the most significant reason, yes.
And how uncompetitive are we? Let me put it, it's a hard question to answer without metrics, but like, are we paying less than all our neighbors? Are we in the middle? You know what I'm saying? How do we figure there?
Well, so Shilene did do a comparative analysis of our surrounding town. I don't know if you have that information on hand, Shilene, or if we can follow back up with you on that.
Yeah, but give me the ballpark sense of where we are versus our neighbors.
I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, So the
It's
state,
under.
so again, one, I need to preface, we did not talk to HR about this. So whatever answer I give you is not blessed by HR. And that's important that you know, because they're behind me. My understanding is, after conversation with Shailene, that the state has a maximum range of senior teachers at about $80,000 a year. Our current maximum is about 64. So, you know, that as a range, there's about a $20,000 difference between what the state expects their top teachers to get paid and what the state then would expect our top teachers to get paid. Once
Gotcha.
again, not blessed by HR.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
And do we know, and maybe you don't, what would it cost us
Yeah.
to match that for our salaries to be competitive?
Yeah, we would need about $300,000 additional funding in order to be competitive with our salaries for
And
our allocated staff.
you mentioned the business case for the lifeguard salary or lifeguard wage increase,
Correct.
which is not in this budget.
Mhm.
I'm presuming that's to make our lifeguard positions competitive with our neighbors.
Correct, yes.
What would that cost us?
So that would cost about $80,000, and OHEMN actually did a comparative analysis for our surrounding large cities, and so that would bring us right up there at the top with salaries, about 80,000.
Okay, and I know we do 2 rounds. I have a few more, and then I won't do round 2. On pages 4 and 5, or slides 4 and 5 of your presentation, where you talk about, we served X number of disengaged youth, and how do those numbers, and maybe this is different for each number, and if you can't answer it, that's fine, but how do those numbers compare to the need in the city, right? Like, if you have, 65 youth, for example, served as part of the rapid response for the violence prevention and intervention work group, do you have a sense in that case or in any of those, what percentage of folks who need those services are getting those services?
Right. So we know that in Hartford, so for that first measure on page 4, there are approximately 8,000 disengaged and disconnected youth in Hartford. That means young people that are not connected to school and or work, approximately 8,000. So, through, let's say, our youth service corps program, right, there's a cost per. So right now they are able to serve approximately 350 young people with the funding that they have from the city. So if we, just to, and again, that's just one program out of many that we fund that serve this population. But the cost per youth for a disengaged or disconnected youth that we call an opportunity youth is high. That's a very high cost per. I mean, our piece of the pie does it at a very reasonable cost, in my opinion. And also, so for example, the second measure on there, the 804 youth that are served through Summer Youth Employment and Learning Program, traditionally they have 2,000 Hartford youth that are applicants, and we give a $1 million grant to Capital Workforce Partners. So we would need approximately an additional $1.5 million in able to be able to serve the, in order to be able to serve all of the young people that have actually requested to have a summer job.
That's just for the summer youth employment.
That's just for the summer youth program. So all of those metrics, yeah.
But it sounds like, because you said first, for like that top number, 24, 23, you said there's about 8,000, and you're hitting, and then 804 versus 2,000. So is it, ballpark, we're saying maybe you're reaching about 35% of the kids who need these services? I'm not holding you to that exact number, but is that about right across the board?
Probably, I would say that would be a pretty decent estimate without having that data right in front of me.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Councilman Thomas.
Thank you. It's always hard going last, and they always pick me last to go. I don't know why Amilcar doesn't switch it up sometimes, but he does not. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, thank you. A few weeks back, Brother John Gale, who's the councilman alongside me, he told a story about the Hartford Fire Department coming to his home, and I thought I'll do that about my experience with your department. Tell a story. I just we had our inauguration, and maybe a week after that, you did the Spark and Glow event, and it was the first time my son was able to come into City Hall, and he got a chance to see Elsa and get a chance to get on the train, and really had an awesome time, and it was like my introduction to the city. And I got a chance to meet the parent cabinet, some of your members, and it was a really informative time and moment. I appreciate your leadership and all that you've done with your department. I know it's going through lots of different changes, but I think it's still in good hands. And I don't have any more questions because my other council colleagues asked good ones already. But I just appreciate you and your whole staff, and I wish you guys the best.
Thank you so much, Councilman. We appreciate that. And again, a huge thanks to Shilene and the whole Early Learning Center team for putting on that first ever event. Looking forward to many more.
It was
Thank
really
you.
nice. It was really nice. And I got Wolfpack tickets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice.
Thank you.
Did. Don't ask for my Wolfpack tickets.
All right. Council President Surgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Director, to and your staff, thank you so very much. Nice presentation. I really enjoyed it. But more than anything else, I was totally impressed with the summary of the program that was started in 6 months.
Thank you.
I think if we had allowed this to continue, we would have seen an amazing change in our centers in the city. But, leadership wanted us to go another way. It's fine, but it's amazing for the 6 months and what was accomplished. You and your staff should take credit for that, because what you talked about in last year's budget of what you wanted us to do with this additional $1.2 million that was given, it certainly started doing so. And I really wish I was able to see the end of how every program would have accomplished what we wanted us to do. The number of hours in our rec centers, the activities that was happening, it pains me not to see the end of this, because bottom line is, it was good thought out programs that you and your staff put together, and what you wanted us to accomplish with the additional funds that you were given. So I want to thank you so very much for this summary, because it certainly gives credence, to what can be accomplished if the city put its mind and money where their thoughts are. And you certainly did that in the 6 months. So I thank you for that summary. And hopefully some of these programs that you have initiated will continue in the new Recreation and Sports Department. And I still have been able to figure it out in my own mind, and I am going to be open to actually see how this merger or, the split off, how it works. If that's just sports, fine. But we have such troubled youth that, as you indicated in your presentation, that it's just not sports alone that's going to help them. We have to really place some other additional programs in our centers. And I can't figure out that you will no longer, I'm not sure if you're going to still be in the centers, or are you just going to be running just the early childhood centers? This have not been able to figure that out as yet. Do you know how that is going to work as yet?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for your very kind words. You know, the staff, the team worked countless, endless hours, and you know, I know that a lot of that work is not seen. So thank you so much for allowing us to present and for your support and your very kind words. So yes, to answer your second question, so we have had, again, we've been working with the new acting director that is in for the Sports and Recreation Department. And we have laid out with this team here, including Corey, very detailed and comprehensive sort of logistics on how the centers will operate. So they will be shared spaces. There will be spaces that are solely designated to sports and recreation. Some spaces that are designated to, again, some of these other youth programs and things that we have to do that we're mandated by state to do. And then there'll be spaces that are shared spaces. So we spent a good amount of time working through all of those logistics. And we have more meetings coming up on that. So what we do know and we do appreciate is that this is not an easy process, right? So it does take a lot of coordination and partnership and thoughtfulness in order to make sure that we are not disrupting any of the services that our community requires, right? And also to make sure that each relevant department is able to uphold and support what they're charged with doing in a way that is complementary and not competitive. So that is that's our goal, that's our mission, and I think that we've come out really strong out of the gate starting to do that.
Good. I look forward to when you're finished, you know, that merger or separation, not sure which one it is. But one last thing to you, Mr. Chair. I would like to acknowledge Ms. Shailene and your accomplishment, the League of Cities recognition. That's huge for the city of Hartford. I don't think anybody understands how impressive that is, that the entire country, United States, okay, the city of Hartford received this early childhood.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank the team in the Early Learning Department. Without them, the work of the National Leagues wouldn't have been where it's at. They are truly the champions of the early learning work, is the team that sits behind me in the Early Learning Division, and working with the whole department. I think, you know, it's an award for the whole department, I think. But thank you.
I know, but, you know, we got to give you a little credit, too.
That's right.
So congratulations to Director, you and all your staff. Major accomplishment.
Thank you so much.
So
And
good
they will
job.
be coming here, the National Leagues of City will be coming to Hartford to look at our early learning, you know, community this summer. So please expect an invite to come out.
Well, it's really nice that Hartford can do some great stuff. It's not, I'm so tired of all the negative things. So let's celebrate all the good things that we do in Hartford. So again, thank you, ladies. Thank you so very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Director Baldwin. I hope and wish for a great partnership between your department and the Sports and Recreation. Partnerships only increase our knowledge, expertise, and experience. So I hope that pans out that way, so that way we could continue providing our youth and our city, you know, the best resources that we could possibly provide them. But before I finish, I'd like to remind our public and our viewers that this Wednesday, May 1st, we're going to have our budget hearing for Hartford Public Library and the Hartford Parking Authority, followed by, on Thursday, by the Mayor's Office, Chief Operating Officer, and City Treasurer. Seeing that there's no more questions and we are done for the night, this meeting is adjourned.